Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Thursday, June 7th meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee, which was recessed on Thursday, June 3rd. I'll entertain a motion to come out of recess.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Councilor Payano. Is it seconded? If any councilor would like to second, please unmute yourself and second that motion.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Levy. It's been properly seconded by Councilor Levy. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I would ask Clerk Garcia to please take the roll call.
Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Councilor Payano,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Chair Abdul.
Chair votes yes. We are adjourned from, we are out of recess, back in session. Again, this is the the Monday, June 7th meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee. And I, at this time, will read the legal notice. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law, Mass General Laws 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in this order. A reminder that persons that would like to listen or view this meeting while in progress may do so at the City Council landing page of the city website, on the City Council YouTube page, or the Council Facebook page, all of which can be found at the City Council landing page. This evening, well, my name is Dave Abdu, and I'm the District Councilor from District E. And I'm joined this evening by my colleague Giovanni Rodriguez from District D, as well as councilors at large, Anna Levy and Pavel Payano. Tonight, we resume the Budget and Finance meeting begun on May 27th, and once again, we are meeting via remote participation. We will meet once again on Wednesday evening, June 9th at 7 p.m. We will begin with the new items that were forwarded to us by the President last week at the June 1st meeting, and then we will proceed to the continued items from this hearing. If needed, we would meet again on Thursday evening, should that be necessary. At the conclusion of these proceedings, there will be a special meeting of the full City Council to vote on the mayor's proposed budget on Tuesday, June 22nd at 7 p.m. At this time, it appears that it will be in person. Please stay tuned for details. At that time, the public will have its opportunity for its opinions to be heard at the beginning of the meeting. In the meantime, we encourage citizens to reach out to their councilors and let them know their opinions, questions, and comments with regard to this budget process and the budget that we are debating each of these nights. All people wishing to be heard will be heard either by their councilors before the meeting or certainly at that meeting on Tuesday, June 22nd. I would remind everyone that the Lawrence City Charter restricts the City Council from adding content, changing or creating policy, or other sorts of changes to the mayor's proposal before us. On June 22nd, the council has three choices: accept the mayor's budget as proposed, reject the mayor's budget outright, or make specific cuts within line items. So let us get back at it. As we progress through tonight's agenda and each night's agenda, I would note that I'm going to exercise the privilege of the chair to take departments out of order in a way that makes sense for those that are delivering the presentations, leaving the lengthier items towards the end of the meeting and respecting our leaders of our various departments. Therefore, I'll be calling the following 16 departments this evening in the following order: the Lawrence Public Library, provided by Director Jessica Villas-Novas; the Greater Lawrence Technical High School, which will be represented by Superintendent John Lavoie; the Offices of Veteran Services, Jamie Melendez, Martha Velez; Economic Development, by Director Esther Encarnacion. Recreation, Boards and Commissions by Director Pedro Soto. Zoning Board of Appeals by Director Pedro Soto. The Department of Public Works presented by Director Franklin Miguel. The Cemetery by Director Jorge Jaime. Parking by Director David Rodriguez or another representative. Water and Sewer by Commissioner Milagros Puello. Inspectional Services, Director Michael Amarno. Public Health, Mike Armano. Licensing, Mike Armano. Intergovernmental Affairs, if necessary, as most of it, or if not all of it, were taken up on May 27th by Mark Ianello. And the last item of the evening will be the City Council budget as presented by President Mark LaPlante. At this time, I would ask speakers as they are called to please unmute themselves, identify yourself for the record, the department that you represent, and proceed to presenting your budget. I will try to remember to cite the pages within the budget for each one of my colleagues. The first item up this evening will be the Lawrence Public Library as presented by Director Jessica Villanovas. And colleagues, you can find that on page 144 of our budget book. Ms. Villanovas, you are up.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Counselor, thank you. Jessica Villanovas, Library Director. I will keep this brief, actually. Our budget, we're just grateful to have had a whole staff this past year through this pandemic. So there really aren't any changes to present to you today. Nothing added, nothing taken away. We have just a standard CBA 1.5% increase for our staff, the union staff. But really nothing else to note. So I welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Director. Are there questions by colleagues? Hearing no questions. Jessica, thank you for coming this evening, presenting your budget. It is, for those at home, it is what we call a flat budget. It is straight from last year, with the exception of the CEA, which collective bargaining agreements, which provide for a cost of living increase, which is not debatable. So with that, Ms. Villanovas, thank you for joining us this evening.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item up will be the Greater Lawrence Technical High School. And I would ask that Superintendent John Lavoy please unmute himself and present the budget and the presentation. And I'm just making sure there's no one else here from the superintendent's office or the board.
I'm here. I'm Maria Silva. I'm the CFO for the district. John's trying to get into the call, but he's in the waiting room.
Very good. Maria, would you like us to come back to it or do you want to present?
Are you able to bring him in from the?
Oh, there he is.
He's in
Yes.
the waiting room.
Yep. I just admitted him.
Yeah. John, okay. Thank you.
No, thank you. Appreciate your help.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Superintendent. Thanks for joining us. Sorry about keeping you in the waiting room, the world we live in. But I just introduced you, and the floor is yours, John. So please, Mr. Superintendent, tell us why we're here this evening. Walk us through the presentation that you provided for us on Friday, May 28th.
Okay. So, well, first of all, I want to thank the council and the city for their constant support of GLTS. We're always excited to be able to provide an educational service, vocational opportunities for the young people of the city. As every year, Lawrence makes up our greatest number of students. We're somewhere around 75, 77% of our students from the city of Lawrence, although this year with 2 students less than we were the year before, we're at actually, 1,262 students, which is 76% of our population, and we're thrilled to have them. So anyways, this year, the assessment is level funded because of some of the ESSER funding that the state provided. So to ensure that your assessment would be level funded. So for the city of Lawrence, The assessment for the foundation part of the budget is $1,373,274, which is what it was last year. And for the non-foundation aspect of the budget, it's come down as well because we paid off our addition last year, so that reduced everybody's assessment in terms of the non-foundation budget. So for the City of Lawrence, it is, let's see, a total of $1,359,374, which is made up of busing, $450,655, the OPED trust fund, $76,717, fixed assets, $383,507, and long-term debt, which is the HVAC project we did about 4 years ago, was $448,374 for a total of $1,359,374.
Thank you, Mr. Lavoy.
You're welcome.
I do not, so first of all, let me just say on behalf of our city and our students, that I think I speak for all of us when we are proud of our technical high school and want to thank you for what you all do during the year, particularly this last year. By the way, the fields look great.
Oh, thanks.
Former item that came before the council a couple of years back.
Yeah.
I do not have any immediate questions from the presentation you just provided. Plus, I have a couple here, but I'm going to pass off to my colleagues to see if there are questions at this time, questions, comments from fellow colleagues on the Budget and Finance Committee. And because of technology, I can't see everyone, so I'm going to look for hands. Okay. Councilor Rodriguez, sir. You are muted, sir. No one mutes Giovanni Rodriguez.
Nobody. Not at this time. Not you. You're very respectful.
Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I actually would like to have a quick question in regard to the numbers that you just mentioned.
Sure.
The numbers that you just mentioned are the responsibility of the city of Lawrence for the school in terms of the education that the kids that goes from Lawrence to the book. Correct.
Exactly. Right.
So what is the total number in regard to those students per pupil coming out of the Chapter 70 money, or a chapter related to the
Our total funding, you mean? Yes, our total funding, as far as foundation, our foundation budget is $34,923,809. And from the state, we get $29,859,940, and the rest comes from our sending community. In non-foundation, we got a total of $202,807,680 for a total revenue of everything $37,731,489, which is about $2 million less than last year, and that was because we paid off the addition to the building that was done 20 years ago last year. So that resulted in
services went down.
Yeah, so it resulted in a savings for all our communities.
Yeah. Do you have it split by communities in terms of how much money you getting per pupil, per student, per community?
So our per pupil cost, I don't know if I have it in my report here.
I have it, John.
You
It's
have-
$21,728 per pupil.
Okay, and out of Lawrence, 1,400 you mentioned students goes to the school?
Yes, 1,000, let's see, 1,262. So Lawrence's portion of the per pupil cost is dependent on the state formula, which is somewhere approximately, I would say about 20% of 21,000.
21,000. And how
Somewhere-
much is the total for that?
So your total
Yes.
For foundation is 1,373,200.
No. I'm saying the total 1,400 kids going from Lawrence to the Vogue times the 21,000 that you receive per student coming from Lawrence. That's about $29 million, 400,000. That's the
Right.
total amount.
Correct.
About. Do you have the specific number, or this is a rough number that is calculated? 1,400 times 21,000.
So would be, if we were to look at the 39,000, hold on a minute. The 37,731,489, 76% of that total is what we receive for the students that are from Lawrence. So you're looking at somewhere in the $25 million range that we're funded for the students of Lawrence between the state and from our communities. We get approximately about $25 million.
Okay. And I know I'm very supportive of the school since I was able to visit 10 to 1 of the school committee members from here that we were able to go and see the school.
Yeah.
And I was also a witness of the nice project that you guys did in terms of sporting and how you guys manage that in terms of program with the community, which is also good, allowing the community to have a specific or take part of those facilities and allow our kids that are not necessarily going to the school to be able to use it to practice and
Yeah.
for the well-being of those kids. So
Yeah.
thank you for that. And I definitely would like to keep on visiting the school and being able to see result of that money that we invest on that school, but more importantly, how our kids are taking advantage of those opportunities that you guys are providing there.
I do want to say that we continue to expand into new programs that are, technology based, that we know that are new jobs coming in the future. So we're always changing our curriculum and our programs to reflect the job market so that students are preparing for jobs that are going to be there in the future that are good paying jobs. So we're constantly making changes to that. One of the big increases, we also increase our After Dark program, which are Lawrence High students coming to the school. We're looking to increase that threefold this coming school year. And we're also been expanding a lot of our workforce development programs. We've probably this year alone have, I would say, almost 3 times more programs for unemployed and underemployed and unemployed citizens from the community. We've put in for a lot of extra funding this year so we could offer more money and more programs for those people who've been impacted by COVID. And so this coming fall, we're actually offering 4 new programs for those unemployed people in the evening. So that's been an increase in something we look to do more and more of so that we can support the community in those job needs for people who are unemployed and offer good opportunities for learning new skills. So we're always looking to increase the programming in every area that we do so that we can, help our communities, particularly our community of Lawrence. The other thing too is we started another phase 4 of our fields, which was all the fill was donated so that we can put another field in to help the Lawrence soccer program specifically to help the Lawrence soccer program, because we know Lawrence is in dire need of some more facilities for the young, particularly the middle school and elementary school students for their soccer program. So anything we can do to help the community is a priority for us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. No more questions for me. Thank you. Oh, by the way, yes, one last question. I've been talking to the new board of trustees for the school, the school committee member for the book, Vivian Marmol.
Oh, sure.
In terms of having a particular program that is related to the aviation and opening opportunities for those kids with the at the state level, and some aviations program, knowing the fact that we have an APER at the city of Lawrence, and be able to put those together with the book and being able to take advantage, the student being able to be exposed and take advantage of those opportunities through a program that the state have. I think that will be great. She's been emailing for quite some time now, the aviation department of the state of Massachusetts. And I hope that if we join forces, that we can make this happen. And I wouldn't want this opportunity to go away, because I know that those are high paid jobs in terms of the aviation opportunities that we have at the state level, and taking advantage of we have an APER at the city of Lawrence. So if you be able to please expand those conversations with Vivian Marmol, I'm gonna highly appreciate it, because I know that your students and our students in general are gonna be taking advantage of that. So thank you if you can do that.
You're welcome. We've already had some conversations about that, and I think she's actually coming in to meet with me this Thursday to continue those conversations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All set, Counselor?
Yes, yes, Mr. Chair, just for you to be aware, Councilor Maria de la Cruz, she's in the line, and she would like to know if you can expand an opportunity for her to talk about the budget tonight.
Sure, yes. I will extend that opportunity to her should she wish to speak. So like anytime after the budget and finance colleagues respond, I will ask her as well. Yes. I would also note in the chat that our Veteran Services agent, Jamie Melendez, has acknowledged the fact that Superintendent Lavoie has met with him on possible opportunities, and that he's extremely grateful. And for those at home, Mr. Melendez is our Veteran Services agent, a veteran of the 82nd Airborne, and we're happy to have him. And Mr. Lavoie, another praise for you and the school you represent. So thank you. Thank you for what you do for our students.
You're welcome. It's really an honor for us to provide services. That's what we're here for.
Sure sounds that way. You guys doing a lot with fairly limited resources, and it's appreciated.
Thank you.
Are there other counselors from the Budget and Finance Committee that have questions? I do not see, bear with me. I want to be able to see everyone. Okay, and or Counselor Dela Cruz, if she has questions, now would be the time.
Thank you, Councilor President Abdul. It is a great opportunity to be here tonight. And I would think in the heart of the vocational school, I believe in those kind of programs. And because we serve the children, the vocational school serves the children of Lawrence, I think, and I believe that our money should be added to the education of the kids that are attending the GLTS. I believe that a lot of this, because they have other issues, personal issues, they cannot be in a regular classroom. and they taking advantage. And I had the experience of working with a family
Bixby voice privacy contents have been updated.
that two kids are at the vocational school. One is going to be a plumber and the other one is going to be an electrician. And those two kids are already planning their business. Then I believe that the city of Lawrence should allow more money for the GLTS to expand, to have more buildings allocated for that school. As a hands-on person that I am, I believe that those vocational courses will make our kids professional. It doesn't matter how hard their life are when they get into a program like electricity, they will make a decent money to support their life. Then if they don't want to go to college, they already have a backup to support themselves. Then helping the vocational school to expand and to provide more money to that school, we are doing a benefit to our kids in the community, especially to the kids that are not going to college, because it is their personal decision, but at least they have a backup that they can work professionally and that they can make a decent money that they can support themselves and their family. Thank you, Mr. Lavoy, for all you do for the vocational school. And I think that more money should be allocated from the city of Lawrence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing I would like to tell the council, one positive thing that's happening as a result of, some of the citizens of Lawrence, some of our prominent citizens. So our state representatives, particularly Frank Moran, is leading contingency, and he's sponsoring a bill to, in the House, to provide $3 billion for vocational school expansion over the next 10 years from MSBA, which we hope seems to have favorable results so far in support in the House. And that bill was started with our own representative, Frank Moran, and the support of the rest of our House delegates and senators. So as usual, we're always getting amazing support from our legislators from the city of Lawrence in particular for our schools. So we truly appreciate that, and we feel fortunate that we have such legislators who care that much about the young people of their community. So I do want you to know that if that goes through, we have some plans for expansions that I think will benefit the city and its particularly its young people and its citizens who are looking to develop new skills for their future as well. We all know that what makes a strong community is citizens who make a livable wage, and that's partly what really is one of our missions at JLTS.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Dela Cruz. Thank you, Mr. Lavoy. And
Mr. Chair?
yes, Mr. Payano, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to add a few things. Thank you, Superintendent Lavoy, for being with us today. What I'll add is I think that a lot of folks, the book provides a great service. There's a lot of individuals that, higher education might not be for them, something academic might not be for them, and doing things with their hands, learning a trade is a vital way for them to be able to find a career that they can use to essentially be able to take care of the family and achieve whatever the American dream means to them. But as well, I think there's a part that a lot of people don't know, which is, or aren't aware, is that there are plenty of students from the vocational GLTS that go to college. There are plenty of schools that, plenty of students that, come out of there, maybe they're learning a trade and decide they want to learn something else, or decide to continue on their learning, whether it's 2 years or to a 4-year degree. And I think that's important for folks to understand that it's not this issue that if you're going to the vocational school, you're just going to learn how to be one thing. That is, you're not necessarily limited to being like at 14 saying that this is going to be your career. If a student wants to do something else and they want to, be a chemist, be an engineer, be whatever they want to be, that pathway is still open. So that's a discussion that I constantly have with individuals, because I think that there's this misrepresentation of what the vocational school is. And I am thankful that Lawrence Public Schools, at our high school, and the vocational school have that partnership, because just as I think it is important for the academics and a future in higher education to be, to be within reach for any student at the vocational school, I also believe that there should be some vocational training within regular high schools. So I want to thank you and your entire staff for your service, and let you know that your school committee members are very, very strong advocates who are always, you can't get into a discussion with them without talking about the vocational school. So whenever you have, board members like that, I think that that's a plus. So thank you again for all the work. Thank you and your staff for all the work that you guys do.
Thank you.
Those are strong words coming from a man wearing a Lawrence High School shirt, repping his colors in his home school. But I know his heart is big and loves all of those GLTS like the rest of us. Full disclaimer, my colors are red and blue, but we're all in Lawrence. We're all from the same city. So,
To that point, our graduate speaker this year was one of our students who graduated 5 years ago, who is now in medical school at UMass Medical School, which is one of the most difficult medical schools to get in. She's in her second year of medical school, as one of our graduates from our health program. So we have about 50% of our students that go on to college when they graduate. So there are many kids who are very successful going on.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And of course, you opened by your comments about a champion of the school, and that's State Representative and former Council President Frank Moran, who is an alum of the Greater Lawrence Technical School.
Yeah.
And we all appreciate his representation and now his leadership in the House. So I'm glad that
definitely, he's amazing.
We're lucky to have him.
Definitely, yeah. He's a.
Mr. President, I have a question to you.
Council Levy.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lavoy, for the great presentation that you've been doing. And
you're welcome.
I think that we all also, everybody is very welcome with, everything that is being done at the school. I have a question. How many programs are you teaching right now there?
Next year, we'll have 21 technical programs, vocational programs. Every year over the last, I'm going to say 8 years or so, each year we've increased typically anywhere from mostly one, and a couple times 2 programs. So we will be at 21 programs next year.
So those programs are 2 years right now, or those technical programs?
4-year programs, and they all have pathways from them. So, you take a program such as carpentry, and some of those kids will go on to college and take a pathway into architecture. We have a young lady that's going to Northeastern next year, has a 4-year scholarship to study architecture. She's one of our carpentry students, who was our valedictorian actually this year. She's going on to study to be an architect. So there are all kinds of pathways off of all of our technical programs. There's 21 programs, but there's probably 200 career areas off of those programs that students can pursue once they've graduated. So
any college or university accepting like all the points that they are getting through the year?
They have, in most cases, they qualify for pretty much any program. If they take the right academic programming, the advanced programming while they're with us, they should be well prepared to move on to a post-secondary education. High percentage of our kids go on to Northern Essex. And then another probably 20% pursue four-year degrees.
A couple of years ago, I just heard someone that say if you go to the vocational school, you will not be able to go to any college or university. because the grade will not be affected. And that caught me the attention on that, and I tried to get a little bit more information. Then I learned that it was completely different from what I was hearing through those people.
Yeah.
But this is great to know, and I know that you've been doing, and the technical school has been doing a very, very great job. And I just went last year, no, the year before, I was there, I walked through. I visited some of the programs. I saw, the kids are learning and doing everything. Thank you so much. And I think that's it's part of the thing that we need to know, or at least to learn, because the kids gets out of, or at the end, they should know better what they would like to do at the end, of the life, or at the end of the high school. So those programs are very, very important for them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Levy.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments of the superintendent? Seeing and hearing none, I want to thank you, Superintendent Lavoie, once again this year for the materials presented, and can't say enough. Thank you for what you do.
Appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay.
You
Bye.
too.
Bye.
So with that, a bit of a change in the agenda, but not really. It's a consolidation of the agenda. We're joined this evening by Martha Velez, and she will present Council on Aging, Senior Center, Veterans, and Recreation as the areas that she oversees. I would note that she is joined by Jamie Melendez and others. So essentially we stay the same, but Martha is going to present the budget and talk about all of them together. So with that, Director Velez, I turn it over to you.
Thank you.
Can we tell a page number?
Depends on where she starts.
Oh,
Depends on where she starts.
Council on Aging.
Council on Aging. Council on Aging. Okay, bear with me.
I have 138. I don't know if you have the same.
It's page 138. That's correct.
You're good, Mr. Ionello. That was one of two I didn't mark. 138.
So the whole budget's on 137 at Health and Human Services, and then individually it starts at 138. Good evening, City Council Chair and councilors. Thank you for having us. Jamie Melendez is on the line with me, and we will present it together. And if you have any questions for him, please feel free. Council on Aging budget. Overall, first of all, our budget is saving the city $71,730. That is a save. It wasn't a cut. It was really because of the services on veteran services. There is less people on Chapter 115 for reimbursement. So the money was taken from there that was not used in prior years. We'll go through the Council on Aging. Our budget was increased by $69,000. Most of it is for contractual pays, and the other one is we're changing from an office clerk to a confidential secretary, and minimum wage changes. And the mayor also added $25,000 for contractual services to provide more services to the city. That's recreational, both for seniors, families, and children. Can I proceed?
Yeah, oh, yes, please.
Okay.
Please, unless any of my colleagues have a question at this point, otherwise we'll take them all at the end.
Okay. Veteran services, as I said, the increase on the top is for contractual increases, and the $150,000 that was taken was really not a cut on the budget, but more so because the money has not been spent because there are less senior veterans on Chapter 115. And we felt that that number would reflect actually what we do spend and get reimbursed for. Recreation Department, $1,520 difference, and that is for wages again, for really, those are the state wages increases for minimum wage, and it reflects that. And that is our budget. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer, or Jamie can answer also. Jamie, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, no, just that I'm sorry for my appearance. I finished working out because I got to get up early tomorrow and check the park and the flags to make sure they're good instead of working out. But I agree with Director Velez. I did submit a levelly funded budget. Other than the number of veterans is absolutely going down that do Chapter 115. With all the other programs that came up with unemployment and other things, due to COVID, a lot of my clients went off. With that said, I also lost a good bit of clients. I probably lost about maybe somewhere between 20 and 30 during the COVID time period, not all to COVID, but a lot due to just age. I'm sure you're aware the number of veterans in the state is going down and is projected to go down. So that number that reflects the disbursement is what Martha's talking about. As far as the individual office budget, it was levelly funded other than the contractual increases that she talked about. And again, that was across the board. But barring any of your questions, I just want to thank you for your time. And I also want to go back to the Greater Lawrence Vote and the programs that they're doing and meeting with Superintendent Lavoie. He's an amazing individual. He is definitely an asset to the city of Lawrence and the school, and his knowledge, leadership, and vision is what impressed me of what he wants to bring in. And I know to the chair, I just want to say he wants to bring in a junior ROTC program, and I would love to sit down and talk to you about that at some time. Maybe we can partner up and make that happen for the Greater Lawrence Vote. So other than that, barring any questions you have, that's all I have. Thank you for the time.
I believe Ms. Velez has finished her comments, and before I turn it over, I would thank Mr. Melendez, and I would just say that if we get Mr. Lavoie to do that, let's make sure it's Army Junior ROTC, okay? I think Ms. Melendez and I are unanimous in that. Thank you, sir. Questions of colleagues on the budget? I see Mr. Payano. Before I recognize him, feel free across all of the HHS services, recreation, veterans, council on aging, and seniors. So Mr. Payano, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Director Velez. So I have one initial question. I have a few questions, but one of them to start off is regarding purchase of services on council on aging. You talked to us briefly about it. If you can expand a little bit more as to what type of services we are engaging in, who are the consultants, or who are the organizations that we are engaging them in to do whatever the service is.
Thank you. Sure, I can explain what that's for. The mayor and I had a conversation, and what the mayor would like to do is have more programs available in the parks for the community. So we're looking at maybe like bringing in exercise instructors to do salsa dancing in the parks, to do movie nights in the parks, to do kite day, anything that we have to contract out that we can't do ourselves. It's basically to do things like that for the community.
Okay. So at the moment, essentially, so there's nothing necessarily like listed besides sort of like these kind of thoughts that you're thinking about. And this is more like over the summer, throughout the year.
I'm hoping to expand it throughout the year so that we could look to see if we could also have, instead of like just bombarding the city with like 6 weeks of programming, is really like looking at it throughout the whole year and maybe even doing some indoor things in the fall and in the winter in partnership with the school departments and things like that.
So this is, so it's not, so I see that's under the Council of Aging, not recreation. So this is not just with a focus on our elderly. This is, the thought is that it'd be open to everybody. Like, is there a specific audience that, you know, like you said LPS, so I'm assuming maybe the audience is young kids. I don't know.
Correct. It really is an array of services for the community. I mean, as I always speak, I feel like seniors are families and families are community and communities have, you know, children in them. So I think we have to take a broad look at that. And where we went through the whole phase of the recreation director leaving, I think it was just under there so we could start planning it and seeing and growing the recreation department.
Okay, thank you. That should be interesting and exciting. So good luck with that.
I'm very excited.
The next question that I have is the office clerk and the confidential secretary. Is that essentially moving like a title change for that individual?
Correct. That's what it would be.
Okay. Are there any added responsibilities on the confidential secretary part that is not under office clerk?
Yes. I mean, now that I oversee 5 departments, I mean, you know, it's basically making sure that, you know, she helps out with all the minutes. If we have meetings all the time, and whether we plan things or have any kind of personnel issues, it would go through her and I.
Okay, perfect. My next question is under recreation. Can you talk to us a little bit about how the search for the director of recreation is going?
It has been posted. We have not. I have not looked at any applications or have not gone through that yet. Right now, we have Adeli Gonzalez as interim recreation director. That he was appointed for either 30 or 60 days, and then during that period as an emergency. And he is training with me, and as I learned when Nelson left, and now I'm trying to teach him with my staff that, you know, started to learn about permitting and everything else. He is helping out, and he's part of the whole team right now.
Okay, thank you. Can you talk to us about salary and the temporary salary and wages?
That's for the school kids that get hired for the summer program. So some of them were making $12.75 an hour, and now the minimum wage is $13.25, I want to say, or $13.50, and that's the difference right there.
Okay, and when does this start? Have applications already been taken? Who, you know, are there still openings? If there are, if any student or any young folk or the parent of a young folk is listening, how do they apply?
So good question. Basically, because of COVID, we're kind of starting everything a little later because we didn't know if we were going to open parks or not, and the parks will be opening. So we are right now in the planning phases of opening or planning the Fun in the Sun. I will be going before you. We received I put in a grant for $10,000 through ECCF for the Fun in the Sun, and we received it. So I will be going before you for the expenditure. We will be hiring. We just don't know how many. And I think within the next few days, something will be out like about hiring. And we're also calling the kids that were part of the program last year to see if any of them want to come back. The staff.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it's important, in particular, just to ensure that everyone has sort of access. Because I think sometimes it's the folks that know the folks that end up using the resources that are being provided by the city and other organizations are usually individuals that are either in the know or are somehow connected to someone that tells them of the resources. So I would just say, you know, for the sake of ensuring that that information is put out there as widely as possible, and you guys have a great pool of applicants where I don't know how you end up prioritizing it, but I'm sure part of it is probably looking at need as well. So I think that's super important. I've seen the the value that since I was a youth, I've seen the value that these type of programs have done for for high school, college students that go in. My first job, it wasn't it was with DPW. It wasn't fun this fun. It was like a full-term job with the recycling coordinator. But I did that. That was my first job. Senior year of high school, and I was able to come back during the summer, and that brought a lot of value. And I actually learned a lot of. I was working in an office setting, learned a lot of office skills. This is a little bit different, but having serving your community and at the same time putting money in your pockets, being 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, that is important, that is vital. And I just want to make sure that we're able to kind of like broadcast it out before decisions are made, so if people feel like they have ample opportunity to apply.
Duly noted. I appreciate those comments, and I 100% agree with you. I have Lawrence High School students that were part of the COVID and still working with us. There's about 35 students, and they have been phenomenal, and the experience has been phenomenal, not just for them, but for us also. And it gives us an opportunity. I mean, these kids are really coming to us and saying, wow, like, you don't know how much I love the fact that we're helping this community and that, we're saving lives and feeding people and, calling them for COVID appointments and doing, going out in the community and helping with COVID screenings and COVID shots. So I totally agree. And those of you that know me, I am about fair process and giving everybody the opportunity to be part of something very, I think, important in this community and serving our community and serving the kids that want to work and learn.
Thank you, Director Velez, and thank you, Dr. Melendez, for for your service to our community. I think every time I see you, I always talk to you about the amazing work that you are doing. I was just talking a few days ago about what the city did with the park with one of my colleagues, and how it's bringing in a lot more sort of attention, and it's an attraction because you drive by. From the first day I drove by, I was like, wow, that is beautiful, right? So thank all of you that took part in those efforts. I have no more questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Payano. Are there any further questions or comments for any of the HHS departments and divisions? I see Councilor Dela Cruz's hand up. Councilor Dela Cruz, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to start by saying thank you to Martha for being present for the COVID, for the family. It was a lot of call, Martha, people has no food, they need food. And thank you for making sure that everybody get the support that they needed in the community. And I would like to thank Mr. Melendez for the flag on the park. That was a wonderful, amazing idea. As a civic person, I love the history of the United States, and seeing the flags bring the awareness to people and the knowledge about celebrating Veterans Week and Veterans Month. And let me tell you, I went there to make sure that nobody was taking the flags away, and nobody touched the flags. That was an amazing idea from whoever got the idea to bring that to the city. I think sometimes we think that people know everything. And remember that some people are coming from another country and they don't know everything about the civic education in this city. Then thank you for bringing that up. Martha, I have a concern about the use of the parks when they being allowed to the different organizations to play sports. And my question is, when these people are getting a contract to use the park, are they supposed to pick up the garbage? The garbage stay, especially when they play Saturdays and Sundays, the garbage stayed outside. Everything is full of garbage, and by the time that they pick up the garbage on Monday, let me tell you, most of the garbage is on the floor. then what can you guys do to prevent all of that?
Thank you. It is a learning experience. We have been trying to work with everyone that gets permits. We do go over, we give them actually a sheet that they sign, and we give them, we used to give them COVID guidelines. We gave them garbage bags so that they can have present when they finish, so that the people that are using the parks, clean up the parks, tie it up in a bag, and then DPW is supposed to come by on Mondays and pick them up. It is a concern of ours. And one of the things that I am trying to work through is seeing how we could have, as Councilor Payano said, I want to see if we could have 2 employees that would be part-time with us, with some of these either college kids or high school kids that can work after school and kind of work with us when people are using parks and kind of helping us in doing. This is a pretty vast undertaking, but I really do believe that we're going to make the recreation department bigger, better, and I think a lot more which what do I want to say? I'm sorry. I want to make sure that there's systems in place. That's the word, really, systems. I want to make sure that people understand what they're taking on when they use a park, what we expect from people, and hold people accountable for those things. The same thing that I've been having conversation with the chief about, making sure that people aren't drinking and doing hookah in the parks and, trying to go by the parks more, because we wanted to make it a family environment and not so much just, a free-for-all.
Martha, to make it easy for everybody, I think a picture, they should be taking pictures before and after the game, and then send them to somebody that will make sure that that person left the park clean. I don't mean that they have to pick up all the garbage, but just the garbage container are overloaded. And by the time, we get a lot of animals at night, and by the time it is 6 o'clock in the morning, all of that garbage is on the floor. Then a picture will solve the problem a lot. And, it is a big concern, every weekend. I love to see people playing sports outside. I love to see, but mostly those games are by adults, not kids.
I agree. And I also know that in this budget, the mayor put in some extra funding for park maintenance. So hopefully we can have people in the weekend, and those are the people that would be picking up those garbage.
Thank you. Thank you for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dela Cruz. Any further questions or comments for any of the HHS departments and their budgets? Hearing none, I want to thank Martha and Jamie. I also do want to acknowledge Campagnon Common over the weekend. It looks absolutely fabulous. I believe it's 776, and no better place in the city of Lawrence than Campagnon Common, named for brothers that gave their lives during World War. So thank you for that. That was great work and represents all of us. It's an honor. Thank you all. Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right, so that concludes that item.
I think Anna, excuse me, yeah.
Yes, I was trying to get on mute.
I just saw it.
I was trying to get on mute. I'm sorry, Mr. President.
No worries.
Something happened and doesn't want to unmute myself. What can I say? No, I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Martha, for the great job that you've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was tremendous, the job that the center was doing along with you. And also I want to thank you, all the people that work with you, because I don't want to say under you, because I think the way that you've been treated, all these people, is practically, sorry, the way that, that I see, the way that you treat those people is practically that it's a team, it's a working team, what you have inside the group that work with you. I feel so happy. I want to thank you for all the work. So you were there during that, during this time of the pandemic. I call you any time that I call you, you were there. You always responded. You were so tired sometimes. I know that sometimes you say, crazy with all these things, doing this and doing that, but that you always has been in there, and anytime that somebody call you and I say, just call her, just wait for a couple of hours or the next day that she's going to respond to you, and thank you.
Thank you. And you're absolutely right. It is a team. I'd never be able to do it by myself. I have an amazing group of people that, step up every single time and never, ever question what we're doing, because they all have a passion to help this city and they all do it for the right reasons. So I appreciate what your words, and I appreciate all the kind words by all city councilors. We love to serve our community.
I can see it. I can see it. Like, I cannot say, oh, this person work on the supervision. Is practically the way. And I think that, this is the way that most of the people feel that they work with together, not just only under somebody else or, as a partner, as a team. And that is very good, because that's the best way to do it.
Thank you.
That's the better way to do it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Levy. All councils all set. Any further comments, questions? Ms. Velez, Ms. Melendez, thank you both, and I wish you a good night, and we'll see you on Tuesday, the 22nd, for the public hearing and vote on this budget.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you too.
Good night.
I would turn my colleagues' attention to page 58. The next two items we will take up are boards and commissions, as well as the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I believe they're both presented this evening by Director Pedro Soto. Mr. Soto, if you would unmute yourself, please identify yourself and present these items, if they're both yours.
Thank you, Councilor Abdu. Is there a chance actually that Director Encarnacion, if she wouldn't mind going first, I'm going to run out for 1 second. I had her listed as going before me. I can come right back.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
Because of my chicken scratch on my own notes, I actually wrote over, when I made the change to HHS, I wrote over her department, not her name, but her department. So
no worries. Thank you.
Ms. Encarnacion, my apologies. You were duly next. My apologies. Please unmute yourself and identify yourself for those at home and tell us about your budget. Thank you.
Thank you, councilors. Good evening, councilors. And my name is Esther Encarnacion. I'm the City Business and Economic Development Director. I reside at 3 North Parrish Road in Lawrence, Massachusetts. So the budget that I present before you tonight is for a total of $175,532. This budget has an increase and of $18,885, which the biggest amount comes from personal services. We are taking on 1/3 of the cost for a receptionist in the Office of Planning that is being shared by Community Development, Planning, and my department. So that's one of the biggest increase in the budget. Also, we have had other increases because we hired a new admin that provided an increase. And actually, for a few years, the department didn't have a economic and business development director. It only had a project manager. That was my previous role. But now the department is fully staffed with 3 people. So economic development director, a project officer, and an admin position. We also had a few increases. For example, employee training, that is 500 from previous budget, because we have new employees in place and we allocated some training to make sure that people have the knowledge and understanding to support the business community. Also, office supplies, there is an increase of $1,007. With COVID, we have had to send a lot of communications to businesses, and that's why we have that increase. And also a increase in postage too. So those are the 3 increases that we have for my department.
Thank you, Ms. Encarnacion. This is primarily a flat budget, with the exception of that exchange of roles, if you will. in the addition of 1/3 of the receptionist that I believe was previewed for us last week when we heard from Ms. Velez. And so with that, it is flat, and and I don't have any questions or comment. I would turn it over to my colleagues. Are there counselors that have questions or comments for Ms. Encarnacion? Seeing and hearing none. Very good. Ms. Encarnacion, there are no further questions, no comments. So with that, I want to thank you for coming this evening and presenting your budget, and we'll see you on Tuesday, the 22nd at City Hall.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night.
And my apologies for skipping over you and going to Mr.
No,
Soto.
that's fine. That's fine.
Hopefully we've taken enough time that he's done running his errand or whatever he's doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Mr. Soto, your camera's on. You're back with us. Sir, I believe you have boards and commissions and the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Abdu. Good evening, councilors. My name is Pedro Soto, Planning Director of the City of Lawrence, for the record. And tonight I'm before you to present on behalf of the Planning Department, the budgets for boards and commissions, including zoning board. So what we're presenting tonight is a pretty level funded budget. We had a fiscal year 21 approved budget in the boards and commissions of $5,500, and we have a recommendation from the mayor's office for fiscal year 22 for $5,500 level funded. And for the planning zoning boards, we have an increase of $1,500, and that increase represents the increase that we've seen in advertising for cases that come before the boards. That's pretty much it. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. Are there questions of fellow councilors? Mr. Soto, the stipend increase of 2,500, is that contractually obligated? Page 60, 2/3 of the way down. Page 60, stipend, Office of Planning.
I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me. Could you, I don't know if Sue is on the line. I think she is.
Sue Fink is with us.
She is, yeah. Could you let me know what line item that is, or for what's the description on that, on the stipend?
That is actually under the planning department budget, which we presented on May 27th.
Yes, we presented that on 27th.
Great, and so it is with these materials. If you would, you just remind me that of that stipend increase. My apologies, but
oh, from 5,000 to 7,500.
Yes, sir.
I don't know the answer to that.
What do you mean?
Could you help me understand that? If that was something written into my contract?
It's in the Office of Planning, under line 010910, Office of Planning, and it's a stipend increase from 5,000 to 7,500. Mr. Rodriguez, sir.
Sure. A few days ago, we have this discussion, and that was part of my questioning to Director Soto. As per his answer on that day, he having a stipend on budget fiscal year 2021 of 5,000, which was a special project that he did in regard to the PPPs and other things during the pandemic, and that was for 2/3 of the year. And fiscal year 2022, as per our discussion a few days ago, this is going to be an unclear project that is not quite defined yet, but it will, and that discussion will gonna take place during the budget hearings on the 22nd. So, but that, on that day, we discussed that when the budget for the planning department was presented to us. Because tonight we're not debating that part. We already debate that a few days ago.
I do apologize, Councilor Abdu. I only came prepared tonight to speak on behalf of the boards and commission. Councilor Rodriguez, I from our last meeting, I am preparing a response from that night, including, you know, what warrants the stipend, what entailed the 5,000 and then the 7,500. So I do have a write-up that I'm preparing that I can get to all the counselors. But I'll be prepared to answer on the next the meeting on the week of the 20th.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. And thank
The
you.
answer short to your question is no, this is a special project that he's doing, not a contractual. Based on what he was presented to us when the planning department presented the budget.
Thank you. And with that, with respect to the zoning, I have no questions. Are there questions of colleagues of any portion of this?
Yes, I have a few questions through you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to express my questions. On the planning and zoning board, we have on section on the personal services, we have approved for fiscal year 2021, 13,950. And as of May 11, only 6,800 was spent. Why was that? Why that doesn't represent 50% of the total amount, but we only have 1 month to spend that money? Do you have a specific reason as of why we haven't spent that money, if it's needed, and if it's not needed, why we level funding it again?
So do you want to take a stab at this one?
Sure. The members of the zoning board are paid on a quarterly basis. And I believe there's been maybe some changes in the membership on the board that Pedro can probably speak to better than I can. So they've not received their final payment for the fiscal year yet.
So they get paid every 3 months?
Correct.
Oh.
That's correct.
So basically, so probably we haven't get that haven't been reflected as of May 11, the last quarter or the last 2 quarters, perhaps.
Yes, we actually make quarterly payouts to about $562.50 per member. And we did lose a member to retirement. Actually, 2 members retired. So the initial budget that we received was with those, all of the members, the 7 members, and we only have 5.
All right, so it is important to say that the board, there is only a few boards in the city of Lawrence that actually get a stipend, and this is one of them. The other one I believe is that the licensing board, I think, that also gets some stipend. So how much each member gets as a stipend every year to be a member of the planning and zoning board?
So it's $562.50 per quarter. So
so that's about $2,000, about
$2,250.
$2,250 per
Yeah.
year per member.
That's correct.
All right. So that's okay. That's the reason why it's so low. All right. Do you have a full membership at this point?
I'm looking to bring on another member. We have had, so yes, we can hold a quorum, we can hold meetings, but there are circumstances where, especially with COVID, sometimes we get close to not having a quorum. So I do want to have a full, look to get more members and get seven members. So I've been working to see if we can make that happen.
So now that we're talking about this, I wanted to take this platform and actually encourage people to apply for this board and commissions in the city of Lawrence. Can you please explain to me and to the public the difference between the zoning board and the planning board of appeal? And that way they can get interested.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the zoning board of appeal essentially looks at land use in the city and makes determinations. As an example, you may have requirements, setback requirements on a property. You want to build a single family, let's say you need 5,000 square feet. There's a proposed project on 3,500 square feet. This particular board looks at the character of the neighborhood and determines if they can actually bypass, so to speak, or give permission to build a property on less than the requirement that we have in the books for land use. And the planning board really looks at other regulations that have to do with design and other features on the particular building, and making an assessment of whether or not it fits in with the character of the community, as well as density and other controls that we have in the city. So very similar in some of the functions that they have, but there is, I think, if folks are interested in joining the zoning board of appeals, there is some decisions that the board members are required to type up and submit for the planning board. I'm sorry, for the planning department to review. And the planning, the other board, the planning board, we actually do that in-house, do that work in-house. So it's a little bit more lift than the zoning board of appeals. And I can answer any more questions, any more particular questions. I can drop my email address in the chat.
If people are interested on serving those boards, how they file an application?
The members usually serve at the sometimes they're appointed by the mayor. Other times, we department heads look for candidates that may fit particular professions that may fit really nicely in the board and complement other members on the board. There's an application process. We vet it internally in the planning department. We make recommendations to the mayor's office, and they can be appointed that way. But we encourage folks that are interested and want to serve in that way to submit an application. We'll vet it internally, and we can make recommendations to the mayor's office.
So they can go to the website, download the application, fill it up, send it over, do it online, and then eventually the application got reviewed and get recommended by the mayor and appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council.
That's correct.
All right, thank you so much. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Councilor Rodriguez. Thank you for your answers on that, Mr. Soto. And I would note that Mrs. Soto's address is in the chat. And for those at home, it's psoto@cityoflawrence.com. That's psoto, all one word, @cityoflawrence.com. Are there any further questions or comments for Mr. Soto? Looking at hands in the chat. And I don't see any, nor do I see any on the screen. So with that, I would thank you, Mr. Soto, for that. Thank you.
You're welcome, Councilor. Have a great night. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Sue Fink. All right, with that, next item is the big kahuna of the night by size and dollar, and that's the Department of Public Works. For my colleagues, you can find the Department of Public Works on page 109. And tonight, DPW is being presented by Director of Public Works, Franklin Miguel. Mr. Miguel, I would ask that you please unmute yourself, identify yourself, and tell us why we're here this evening.
Good evening, councilors. Franklin Miguel, Director of Public Works for the City of Lawrence. I'm here tonight presenting the budget for FY22. We do have an increase of 10% in comparison to fiscal year FY21. This 10% represent an increase of $1.1 million. Out of 74% is actually going is an adjustment for the trash hauling and tipping fees for trash disposal. Basically, those 74% out of the increase is going to solid waste, the division of solid waste, basically. The other 26% is we're adding 5 new positions in the budget this year, and represent also contractual agreements for the unions and stuff. We also have other minor requests, like for engineering, we are requesting an increase of $5,000 for employee training to provide proper worksite safety training for all engineers and operation staff, customer service training for clerical, and management training for supervisors. We also, out of those new positions, we do have the municipal services manager. We have, which is actually new in the budget, but we also have the boiler technician. We have a heavy motor equipment operator, and we have a high special motor, heavy motor equipment operator. Those are the and a dispatcher for the city yard. Those are the 5 new positions that we have in the budget this fiscal year 2022, which represent actually an increase of 26% along with the contractual agreement from unions. Besides also I'm also presenting the parking budget. I don't know if you want me to present.
Could we, because that is a bit different than the rest of what you represent. Let's just stay here for a moment, and all right. I'll start with my colleagues.
Yes.
If they have any questions. Mr. Payano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So first of all, I just want to make sure the public understands that. So one of the pieces of discussion that we had about 2 or 3 years ago was on the salary of the Director of Public Works, that on this page was listed as just 0.65 of the budget, and that in other places that line item is also there. So the amount that is seen before us isn't the amount in full of that position. It's just 0.65.
Yes, it's because it's a split among all the divisions that the department.
Right. Yeah. No. I understand. I think the issue was that I want to make sure that I keep for as long as I'm in this council, just mentioning that in the first time that it was presented, that was not clearly sort of stated, and we were unsure. It took a lot of conversation, and there was confusion because the director of water basically didn't really understand what was going on. So just wanted to state that. Can you talk to us a little bit more about what is the municipal service manager? What does that role entail? And why is that position listed at $95,000? Essentially, it puts that position aligned with higher than a lot of our directors. It's on par with most of basically the close to, if not the same as some department heads. So I'm interested in understanding what is this position entail.
Sure. This position is it was in place before. per the municipal code ordinance, the municipal service manager actually is responsible for the supervisors and for all the building maintenance, maintenance and repair of road, sidewalk, groundskeeping, landscaping, and snow removal, and it will also oversee the fleet for the city. It's actually as a deputy director, basically.
So then what would you, so explain to me, so then what would be your role?
Well, we still have overseeing the parking division and all the work that we need to do here in the office. And besides that, I mean, just handling all operationals and here in the city hall and overseeing the supervisor. I agree that we will improve the quality of services that we provide to our residents in the city of Florence.
What type of?
It's just, let me just point out, Councilor, that we do have in other municipalities around, we do have multiple deputy directors. Here in Lawrence, it's just basically the DPW director and 2 supervisors that we have, and actually 3 supervisors counting the parking division. Sometimes we get very busy and we just capable to handle so much. So in order to have a more efficient services to the resident, and we're adding this position, which is not new, but we are incorporating in the budget this year.
So a few questions on that. I'm interested in learning sort of like what the requirements are for someone to be in that position. So for example, requirement to be, there are certain requirements to be at the director level. Like I even though I have a few degrees, I can't just, sort of walk to City Hall and say, I want to be a director of public works without any experience, without any type of, certifications and bachelor's in something, like, so like there are certain things that are needed for that. Can you explain to us a little bit about what the requirements are for this municipal service manager?
As of now,
what brings this person to the range where they're basically making as much as a department head?
As of the personnel department is actually working on all the requirements and the posting. We do want someone that actually knows about construction, or know about park maintenance, that know about fleet management. So those are the requirements that we actually want to share with the personnel's office. Our personnel director is working also with city attorney trying to work that portion of the posting and update the posting actually before it goes out. But we do want someone capable to manage actually the city yard without no problem. Someone with experience on that aspect.
Okay, so it sounds like you're looking for someone that has already has experience within DPW to take on this role. How much does a supervisor make right now?
Supervisors say 70,000. Depends. I believe it's 70,000, about 75,000.
Do you know where they are on this?
Finance director Mike Anello is online, has that information, but it should be.
So I see. So I'm looking at some like one supervisor, street and park supervisor. It says here 88,000. So it looks like it's. Hold on, if you give me 1 second, I just want to make sure I look through. Yeah, I can't see.
Yes, it's 88,000 on the street and park supervisor.
Yeah, so that's just one. I can't see the other supervisors, how much they make.
Well, so, the other supervisor is building and
facility. If I may, Counselor, I think I can answer the question. Franklin, I think I can answer the question.
Okay.
These are supervisors. There are, I think, 4 or 5 supervisors throughout the city, and they're all in the supervisors administrative union, and they all make the same salary. So it's I'm looking at the budget now on page 128. There's a building and facility supervisor at $88,224. And I believe, as Franklin's indicated, there's one in the Parks Division. There's one in the water. I think there's a couple in the Water and Sewer Division. And so it's buildings, parks, and streets. The 3 supervisors on DPW side, and then there's 2 on the water and sewer side. And I believe they all make pretty much exactly the same salary, unless they're on different steps.
Thank you, Director Iannello. Director Miguel, is municipal service manager, is that also a union position?
What? No, it's not union.
It's not union. Okay. Are you planning on? So I know that everything is posted. Do you feel like you'll be able to, as you're searching? Is this a search like far and wide search, or more like you think like you'll be able to find a someone locally?
We want to do. I mean, if we have someone with the requirements of the posting, local, definitely we have preference over any other.
Okay, thank you, Director Miguel. I think I understand a little bit better. I think so one of my, if you're saying that this makes things more efficient,
yes.
Okay, but one of the things, like the fear that I would have is essentially adding on certain positions that potentially might not be needed. I know that you've stated that this was there in the past, but it hasn't been there for several years. So I think that there are a lot of issues right now within. I wouldn't say a lot of issues. I think there are some issues. There's definitely inefficiencies in in any department. I think you do DPW and the Forks in the Yard is you're dealing with a lot of people. So if you say that you need further support to sort of help that and have a sort of like deputy director, okay, I guess that can make sense. But I think that I definitely there's some concerns coming at that end, but I think I kind of understand where you're coming from. The other piece is.
Can I just speak on that for a moment, Counselor? I just want to, because I know Franklin probably will not speak to it, but I've been here 10 years, and I think I'm on my 4th DPW director. And one of the reasons why we can't seem to keep a DPW director is because the job is just astronomically difficult. It has a lot. It has DPW side, it has building side, it has park side, it has water and sewer side. This is the, I've never seen a department head that has that many direct reports to him, and it's really overwhelming. And the last 2 DPW directors were overworked, and the job was just too difficult. So I just want to speak from a practical experience, and also from my experience in Springfield, there would be 3 department heads. And so, we have 1 department head for DPW, and Springfield has 3. So I really, this position I think is kind of to act like a direct assistant to the DPW director, because there are so many things that he's directly responsible for. It really is a little thin. So if that's, I just wanted to get that out.
Yep, I appreciate that. I thought I stated something similar. I completely understand sort of how large the DPW is. I worked with the DPW, back when I was a kid. So I'm aware of that. I mean, but regardless, even though understanding that, I still, anytime that we're adding, more at the top, I think that it's just a question trying to figure out, if this is going to improve efficiencies, like, what is the thought process, what is the thought process behind it? And, I would also add that the last 2 directors of the DPW, I don't know. I mean, they were overworked, granted, but I think there was a lot more going on when they left. But moving on from that, let's talking about the waste disposal contracts. Director Miguel, if you can just talk to us a little bit more about that, because I think this is a really good opportunity to kind of inform the public of sort of what's going on. We've seen these that when it comes to trash, that the cost of picking up and disposing trash goes up every year. And on top of that, I don't know what the increase was in tonnage as far as we've been disposing, but I'm gonna bet that that's probably increased as well. Maybe it hasn't with COVID, but can you go into a little bit more details, into that and kind of tell us where we're at as well? If you can talk to us a little bit about, we signed a contract with JRM for the pickup. I'm interested in hearing what's going on as far as the disposing of trash, because I feel like that contract was up either last year or this year, or something like that.
Yes. As you are aware, Councilor Payano, every year, like by the end of the fiscal year, the administration usually go in front of council to request more money for trash to cover the budget. So this year we're actually budgeting that amount to avoid going in front of council next fiscal year. So we're talking about 149,000 specifically that we're adding to the solid waste management. Out of that 849, we're anticipating that 479,000 more is going toward the JRM contract, and the 370,000 is going for the waste management, for the tipping fees of waste management. So how it works is basically we have the contract with JRM, and they are in charge of, picking up the trash and solid waste and recycling, and we have to pay the disposal fee at waste management, which is a separate contract. I don't know if that answered your question or you want more further. You're muted. You're muted.
My apologies, Director. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the so one, thank you for putting, I think this is really great best practice. Instead of us going at the end of the year, and even if we have to ask for 100,000, 200,000 for free cash, is completely different than asking for the whole thing. So I do want to commend you and the rest of the team that made a decision to do it this way. I think that's great. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the disposal contract? Did you say when that contract was up?
No, I have to look for the contract. I believe it is 4 years, right, Mark?
I believe the waste disposal, which is the waste management where we dump our trash, the tonnage, I believe that expired 12/31 of 20 and was renewed. I believe it was $60 per ton, and I think it went up to $70 or something per ton. And it has escalations for each of the next few years as well. I don't have the amounts in front of me, but it was a substantial increase in the tonnage fee. And then the JRM, that's a multi-year contract as well. And that's the hauling services. And that also, I don't have their contract in front of me, but they also have contractual increases for each year of their contract.
Great. Thank you so much, Director Ianniello, for that info. And Director Miguel, not something necessarily tomorrow, but if it's possible in the next week for you to provide us with some big picture, not necessarily that we need the contract, but big picture information as to what the old cost was and what the cost was going to be for the next couple of years. I know that when we were doing the JRM contract, there was some concerns because at that time, Waste Management had just signed a contract with Boston for disposing of trash that was almost double of what Boston had been previously being charged. So there was some fear that Lawrence might have to do something similar. So I think with this, we're spending $6 million essentially on disposing of trash. Some of it is recycling, but as we know, recycling is cheaper than trash pickup and trash disposal. And that's $6 million that can be going to a million different things. You know, that could be going for our streets, hire more police officers, you know, a lot of other services that are within the city. So I think one of the things that we need to make sure happens in the next few years is creating some type of plan how we're gonna address and tackle trash here in Lawrence. It doesn't make sense that every year trash disposal, I mean, the cost is one thing. You know, cost going up makes sense because there's, you know, little by little, we're going to start using the spaces where, you know, people can put trash in. But the fact that we are increasing the amount of trash we're putting out, that's the piece that I always have a hard time understanding. Because even if where our population goes up by 500 or 1,000 or something like that, it doesn't make sense that it's there's a 20% increase in tonnage. So I think that we need to create we need to have some type of strategy on how to address that. And I hope that, you know, next year or then the next following years, your department can start, amongst a million other things that you're doing, your department can start sort of tackling and brainstorming, meeting and having conversations around how do other cities and towns tackle this issue and what can we do to try to stem, you know, stem that tide. You know, at the moment, it's if not, then we're going to keep seeing increases of $500,000, $800 million every year. The other question I had is around. So can you talk to us a little bit about? I couldn't find it on the on our book. The cost for electrical, like you know, in the past, you know, we signed a contract where they redid all the LED lights. You know, I'm wondering if we've seen like savings on that.
I actually requested a report to Ameresco, which is the primary, the main contractor, to submit a report to us and City Council with those differences. I mean, we want to see how much did we pay before, how much did we pay the electricity, and how much saving do we have after we had that contract with them. I just sent that memo today.
Okay.
I would definitely more than happy to share it with you as soon as I get it, because it is a concern for us actually that we spend a decent amount of money switching to LEDs, and now it is our job to actually go after the contractor and monitor that we're actually saving money on that with that investment.
Great. Well, thank you, Director Miguel, for that, because I think that that's extremely important. And yes, definitely. Once that you have that information, please send it over to us. You know, the only thing I will add is that yeah, I think for years the City Council has been pushing or was pushing the mayor's office to get street sweepers. I think this year we got those street sweepers. They're out there. I think, you know, people want them so much that they're not seeing them, right? But I know that they're out there. So, you know, what I've said is there's only 2 and we have an entire city to do. So I think it's, you know, it's important for you know, to ensure that we start creating sort of these plans, like in Boston, like everybody knows that if you live on a certain neighborhood on Tuesday, your street is being swept, you know, like, and I'll say, I've, having lived in Boston, you know, once upon a time, there was the first Tuesday that this happened, my car got towed because I just didn't know, right? Everybody else in that neighborhood knew except me. But I think it's, you know, it's important, as much as we don't want to tow anybody, I think it's important to set strict guidelines, because that way no one's questioning, did the street sweeper, you know, like, because right now people are like, oh yeah, like it's only certain streets that get swept, because maybe their street did get swept, but they just didn't see it, right? So if neighborhoods know that, you know, every second Monday or every third Monday, Tower Hill is going to be swept, or Mount Vernon, then they're going to understand that the city's out there doing their job, which I know that you guys are right now. And also, you know, we'll make sure that if they know this and they know they can't park in certain areas, that the street will be swept in a way that they can tell the difference. I think in some areas, as soon as the street sweeper comes through by the end of the afternoon, there's already trash. Definitely that happens in some streets, but I think for the most part in the more residential neighborhoods that it's not sort of like business zones, there is sort of, I think it'd be important for them to see DPW at work and really feel like that the streets have that nice shine to them. But outside of saying that, I want to thank you and the rest of the DPW officers for all their efforts in keeping our streets clean and free of potholes.
Thank you, Councilor Payano. We're actually, now that you mentioned the street sweeper, we are working on a street sweeping ordinance. The document is currently with the city attorney for review, and we are actually pushing that up. We need to have a more efficient street sweeping operations at the city.
Great, and I would say if the faster you push, I think the better, because I think that there's no time like summer to be doing this type of work when people are out and about. So thank you very much, Director Miguel and Director Anello. Director Abdu. No further questions.
Council, I just pulled up the contract for the solid waste disposal, and we were paying, I believe it was $60.50 or $61 per ton. In the first year, from January 1, 21 to 12/31/21, we're going to pay $76 per ton. And the following year, 83, 86, 88, and then 90 in the final year. So the tonnage is just through the roof.
Yeah. So, I would say, congrats to you guys for negotiating that contract, because I thought it was, I think when I was talking to Carlos and some other folks that are in the DPW off of the greater Boston area, they were telling me like, get ready for like $100 plus. So that was like a big fear. So if the difference is only $13, $15, and it's a slow increase, I think we're in a really good spot.
Yeah, I think Boston, as you mentioned earlier, I believe Boston was increased to over $90 per ton. And that was a couple of years ago. So we did really well.
Yep. Great job.
Just a follow-up on that comment through you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, a few years ago when I actually joined the council, we have the opportunity to have, an opportunity in front of the city council to have the contract that it was not going to be over $64 per ton if we have that contract at that point extended to 6 years. That's what they were looking for back then. But the council at that moment failed to pass that contract, and only went to the mayors, and the mayor signed the contract for 3 years. So that was part of our fault as well 5 years ago. And I remember that conversation like I'm having it today. So thank you so much. Just want to put that up there.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Miguel, thank you this evening for joining us. In 2019, the city bought 2 new street sweepers.
Yes.
I realize it was a different mayor, different administration, but at that time, it was when we were being asked to vote for new street sweepers, it was to create a robust presence. Can you give us the state of those street sweepers and street sweepers in general? And we're talking about possibly contract services.
Yes, we do have those street sweepers. Our labors depend on the demand of work that we have on a daily basis. We send them out to operate the sweepers, or we usually have them to go on overtime to do it, or start earlier in the day. As of now, we are short staffed at DPW. Sometimes, even if you ask them to work extra work, to work overtime, they will tell you no, because they're exhausted with the work, the amount of work. But we do send the 2 sweepers that we have out. The sweepers are in good condition. And besides those 2 sweepers, we're actually contracting out 2 more. So we're gonna send 4 sweepers out to the street shortly. actually clean better our street, of the city was all the street in the city. We will be working. We're actually in the process of doing the contract with that vendor. So I will say within a month we should start seeing more actions with two other sweepers that we contracted out on top of the 2 that we have for the city. We're gonna have 4 sweepers running citywide.
2 we own and 2 by contract.
Yes. Yes.
Through the end of the summer or through the end of the?
Through the end of the, well, yeah, we'll be through the end of the summer until November.
Okay.
Yes.
And is that the $10,000 in other purchase services under Public Works Engineering?
No, we increased the budget on engineering for 10,000. Actually, we switched it from building and facilities. We move it to engineering. If you go to page, it's at 128. Let's see.
109.
That change of 10,000, you'll see it from page 127. So we move it from repair and maintenance for buildings, we move it to engineering department. We currently have a more active engineering office. We have more personnel at that office, and they actually handling more work. So that's why we actually move it from the building and facilities to the engineering office.
Okay, staying on that theme of street sweepers and personnel. You said people saying no to overtime. Are we fully staffed? Are we fully staffed in that area? The number of budgeted hires, are those positions filled?
No, we have opening and we posted. Well, we're working on hiring probably 2 more, but it wouldn't be enough. We would have 2 more people. Actually, we were fully staffed until last week. We had 1 person resign, so we're working on getting that position filled. Like today, it was too hot for them, so they didn't want to stay working. So I just request them to start instead of start at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Okay, let's start the day at 5. So there will be a 5 trash pickup, and mowing, all kinds of stuff. Trash pickup around the city.
And that's all in streets and parks.
Yeah, that's all street and parks. Councilor Payano has one question.
I have a question.
So if I could, I just would like to finish mine. Mr. Payano, did you have the floor? Because I have done this before.
I do not have the floor. I had a follow up to one of your questions, but I'll hold because maybe you'll ask mine, so it's fine.
I'm requesting Orson to speak.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Council Levy. I would note that snow and ice is flat for those people at home. Snow and ice is a flat budget. Elevator is a flat budget. Longevity is a mandated expense. With that, I would have, I guess, to turn it over to my colleagues. I have one last question. Director Miguel, I'd turn your attention to page 117, 2/3 of the way down into supplies, new signs. It gets zeroed out this year. Is that like?
Yes,
signs?
we do have in the CIP $100,000 that we haven't spent. So that's why we actually have the signs budget reduced in the general funds budget.
So rather than 48,000 in operating dollars, you're going to use 100,000 in capital dollars.
We do have available budget on the CIP.
All right, thank you, Mr. Miguel. Mr. Payano, floor is yours. We will come back to Mr. Payano. Councilor Levy, floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Franklin Miguel, so getting back to the question that President Adu did it, It's regarding the 3 old sweeper that we have. So he asked you about the 3 old sweeper, what's going on with that?
Oh, the old sweeper?
Yes.
I want to imagine that we auction it off. I mean, I just joined DPW in February, so past practice is usually when we have equipment that we have discontinued, we have to auction it off per procurement process. I mean, we have to do the right procurement process to get rid of those sweepers. Usually we auction it off to one of the estate vendors.
Also, I have a question.
We do have 2 new sweepers, so
So right now we have 2 and we're gonna lease two more.
we're gonna contract out.
Yes, we're gonna lease or contract 2 more.
Yeah, yes.
So on regard of the items that so the sanitation, for the sanitation, there is an increase in there for item 52 and item 53.
Yes.
So practically it's over 800,000. Can you tell me a little bit on that?
Yes. Usually, as I explained, Councilor Payano, the past practice was we didn't budget the full amount for the entire year. So again, at the end of the year, a previous director had to go in front of council and request a list. I have a list of requests for city councilors. So what we're doing actually now, we're just taking the amount that we have in the contract and calculating the amount that we're going to spend through the entire year now in the budget. So we budget right now for the entire fiscal year, FY22. That's including the hauling and disposal. That's why you have the 479, which is the hauling for JRM, and 370 for disposal for waste management. Does that answer?
So, and I'm sorry?
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And how much more money did we spend up to now, up to May 31st?
I will have to look it up in the system. I don't know by heart, but I can get you that number definitely tomorrow. If I don't know, Director Ianello has the number with him, but I can get you the number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. You can send
just
it
on the trash, right? Just on
yes.
trash disposal. Okay.
Yeah. So how much money we have spending up to May the 31st?
Yep.
So also on page 111, there is an increase of 96,000 for this year. Can you tell me a little bit on that?
Yes, that was what Councilor Payano was referring to. The municipal services manager is a new position.
Oh, that's the one. That's the position
that's
that he was talking.
Plus, I mean, it's 90. We're budgeting for 95, but there are other expenses for other employees that per contract we have to include in the salary.
So that position is going to come in front of us or no?
I have to check with personnel to see what the ordinance says about it. We will double check with the ordinance with personnel before the posting.
Would you be able to share with us, like as soon as you have whatever it is that's the requirement for that position?
Sure.
The job description?
Sure. Do you wanna see before posting it?
Yes, we will. I think so that that's one of the things that also Council Payano would like to see.
Of course.
It's like before posting, we would like to see the job description.
Of course, definitely.
By the way, Counselor, I looked up those accounts while you were talking, and the number as of May 11th is the same number it is today. There have been no additional invoices paid since May 11th. So what's in there? What's in your book on page 122 is what's been expended through June 7th.
So it's nothing has been changing.
No change.
Okay, and no bill is being owed at this point.
I'm sure there's a bill owed, it just hasn't been paid.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
I think that the bills come in for hauling. I know the bill comes in on the 1st of every month. So June 1st, there must, I'm sure there was an invoice, and I imagine it'll get paid in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Levy. Thank you, Mr. Ianello. Mr. Payano.
Chair, my apologies, Mr. Chair. There's background noise here, and I did not hear that you were calling my name. So just two things. One, I know Director Miguel just mentioned it. I just want to one kind of repeat again that as far as the trash, I commend the administration for making this change, because for what was going on before is that we weren't putting the actual numbers within our budget, and we were creating this sort of, in my mind, in my opinion, I would call it a fake surplus, because we would have to go back in front of City Council and ask for that money anyways. So I remember a year ago and the year before that and the year before that, sort of, pleading the case that in the budget, this amount should be listed there. So for the sake of transparency, so everybody knows exactly what that cost is. So I'm thankful that we're finally doing that. On another piece, there was a conversation that you were having with Chairman Abdu regarding the street sweepers, and you said something that one of the difficulties is that sometimes the employees don't want to do it because it's like overtime. Has there been thought about hiring an individual that just does this just like it's their job full time or part time? I'm also wondering, is it possible to get them to do it not overtime, to just get them to do it, like just have someone and have that be like their job to do this within the budget, or perhaps we need to create a different, I don't know what it is, but I'm wondering what the strategy is, because if so even if we create, I thought that maybe the roadblock was that there weren't policies in place, but if there's other roadblocks, and I think the biggest one is having the the staff to actually do the job, I think we need to address that directly.
Yeah. Yes. Besides the municipal service manager, which is kind of the admin position, the other ones are laborers, basically. We do have dispatcher and labor, which will be doing street sweeping during the summer, springtime, and dispatching during the snow season. We also have the high special HMEO, which is a position that we just have one for the entire department right now. So we're requesting another one, because sometimes when that person is not available, we have to wait, because it doesn't, nobody else has the proper licenses to do the job. But we do, plus besides the positions that we're requesting in the budget, we are training all our guys, to do the sweepers. Sometimes we have, we cannot send them all out. I mean, we cannot do the sweepers because we are doing trash pickup or mowing, trimming, doing wood walking, on the field, which are a lot. But definitely we are trying to assign, personnel to do the sweepers. As soon as we have the ordinance in place, we will have to assign it, because we need to meet the expectation.
Okay, so you're saying that once the ordinance is in place, that you have no it is in your belief that the staff will be there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Payano. At this time, I would ask our colleague, Councilor De La Cruz from District A, if she would like to speak.
Thank you, Council President. Mr. Franklin Miguel, I have a question, a simple question.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that we create like a contest by block? If the block is clean, we bring the ice cream truck to people, because that way everybody will help out. I don't believe that DPW have to do all the job. I clean my sidewalk, I cut my grass. I don't expect the city to do that for me. But we have people that are now homeowners that, they're not taking care of properties. And the homeowner, we have a lot of homeowners that are out of the city. then we will never gonna look this city beautiful if we don't work together as a team. They're motivating people, you know, making announcement. Oh, we're gonna clean Summit Street on June 29th. Then, you know, all the people that come out and clean, you get ice cream. Because I think we have to work together as a team. And some people are not motivated to keep their street clean. We as neighborhood association, we try very hard and we do the cleaning. But because people are not homeowners, they don't care. They
Yeah,
don't
no,
do
I definitely support that. I believe that we should work in collaboration with neighborhood association promoting this type of events. I mean, to clean the streets and also bring on board probably inspection of services, so they know that they can get ticket if they don't clean the front of the property. Things like that.
But remember that we have a lot of people that they not the owner of the building. They just renting the space,
Yeah.
renting the apartment, and they don't believe that they have to care about the cleaning of the building. I believe that after we do that promotion, we clean, you get ice cream or whatever, and then, you know, take into accountability homeowners.
Yes.
Start giving the tickets to the homeowners, because even though that we talk about, like Mr. Payano has been begging for the recycling, I remember teaching about recycling about 15 years ago at the high school level. Then those group of people, they should be knowing already about the recycling system. And they should be know that, you know, you pick up your trash. But we still have people that they don't know that you cannot put a chair outside. You can call to get a mattress being removed from your house, but still have people that they don't know that information. Then I think in the also that in the water bill that you send a pamphlet every year, all of that information should be included in one place that people will read about it. But getting ticket, getting consequence for not doing after a big education promotional activities, then we should then start giving the tickets to the homeowner of that property.
Yep. Perfect. I
Thank you.
agree. We'll start working with Commissioner Puello to work something out and send flyers on the water bill, basically with the trash schedule.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miguel. Thank you, Councilor De La Cruz. Are there further questions, comments for Mr. Miguel and his department?
I would like to ask something, Mr. President.
Councilor Levy.
Yes. Just, I would like to add something to what Maria, Councilor De La Cruz was saying right now, that people also should get a real barrel to put that the recycle, you know, for from on the street, instead of those little bins, because using those little bins, they throw out everything everywhere. So I think that we should have a big recycle bins like in many other cities using. Thank you. You are new.
Just one final comment.
I felt the old mute button. What's that, Mr. Piano?
So thank you. No, so on Councilor Levy's comment about having big recycling. So I just wanted to mention, I don't know if that grant's still there, but there was a time where we were trying to pass a recycling ordinance. If we would have passed that recycling ordinance, the state was gonna give us a grant over the course of several years. And the grant was for us to use that money to buy the big recycling bins. So just kind of want to put that forward so folks are aware. I'm sorry, Director Miguel.
Work on it. Let's
work on it. Yeah, I mean it's yeah. It takes the council to pass it, you know. So, but yeah, no. But I think that was something that's important. And I would agree, Councilor Levy. I mean, the saddest thing is seeing people recycle and then seeing like the paper just fly away because of a windy day. So we definitely need not just bigger bins, right? I'd be comfortable with a little bit bigger, but with like a lid so people can at least close it and it looks neater. But I just want to again sort of say that all sorts of really great discussion points that we've had today. So this is very informative budget session. So thank you all for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Payano. Further comments or questions from councilors? Hearing and seeing none, I want to thank Mr. Miguel, Director Miguel, for joining us this evening. I think you win the award for the longest presentation of the evening thus far at 1 hour. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And appreciate what you and the team do on a daily basis. And we'll see you on Tuesday, June 22nd.
See you Tuesday, June 22nd. Thank you.
Well, if you could hang on, Counselor, that he's not done yet because he has the parking and the parking lots enterprise fund. So
Whenever I see enterprise fund, Mr. Ainello, I think that's your job. Shame on me.
no.
Shame on me.
I got enough to do. Thanks.
Mr. Miguel.
Yeah.
Back.
I'm back. Thank you. Long time no see. Well, basically, no, with the budget for parking, what we have, the changes that we have on page 160 is basically per contract agreement. We reduce the parking attendants to 11, so we have two less position. And we had to incorporate the senior parking attendant. That's per contract. As well, we removed the maintenance worker and we incorporated the senior parking attendant. Those are the changes that you see on page 160. And the only change to the budget is basically the shuttle services that we need to provide for Museum Square. We have to incorporate 150,000 into the parking budget this year. That's all of these. Everything else is still the same.
Mr. Miguel, where is the 150,000 for Museum Square?
Page 159.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Are there? Oh,
That-
go ahead.
That's the only change that we have in the budget, unless Mr. Ianello have something else to contribute to the table.
Hearing nothing from Mr.
Well, I'm sorry, I was on mute. I just want to point out that the general fund is going to subsidize the parking garage and lots enterprise fund we're estimated at 550,000. And that's because the Museum Square is still going to be out. But my understanding is we think it's going to come back online on or about late fall or by January 1 of 22. So we'll hopefully we'll cut into that a little bit, but that's the subsidy that we're providing to the parking garage and lots enterprise fund because of the garage being down and because of COVID. Some of the other lots that we have been closed, so we haven't collected anywhere near what we normally do. So we're getting back to normal.
Thank you, Mr. Ainello. Are there any other questions on parking lots and garages? Hearing none and just checking the chat, make sure there's no hands up. There is not. Hearing none, that does it for parking lots and garages. And I believe you said he has the enterprise fund, right?
That was the enterprise fund. The other parking division is within the DPW budget. Right, it's the last division and is after snow and ice on page 150. I'm sorry, on page 132 is the parking division, which is the traffic control people.
I'm on snow and ice. That's not good.
It's the next page.
Yep. Thanks, sir. And this is a flat budget.
Yep.
Yep.
I have no questions. Councilors, are there questions from you? Or Councilor Dela Cruz? And seeing and hearing no questions, Mr. Ainello, is Mr. Miguel done tonight?
He is.
You are done, Mr. Miguel. Thank you for that, and bearing with me as I once again skipped over one. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Frank. We'll see you on June 22nd.
Yeah, June 22nd.
The next item will be our cemetery, Bellevue Cemetery Department. Colleagues, that can be found on page 134. And I do see that Director Jorge Jaime is in the chat or in the attendance, and would ask him to unmute himself and tell us why we're here today.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Good evening, councilors. Good evening, department heads. So my budget, it has a change of 17,652, but it's contract agreements with the union. And everything else is flat. It's $437,322.
Yes, it's as flat gets. I would just say I have no questions, but I just want to comment that Memorial Day weekend, always an important time for families of loved ones up there. Inevitably, I get multiple calls regarding preparation and whatnot, and I would tell you, Director, that I got no negative calls. I got one call that could have been a negative, and it was a water spigot that was destroyed and was running and just flooding. And I got message to you, and my understanding is that within an hour it was repaired. And I'm thankful to the constituent for bringing it up, and I'm very thankful to you all. But I just thought it shouldn't go unnoted that the work you all did preparing for Memorial Day, particularly this year where COVID has affected so many operations. I want to provide you my thank you on behalf of my constituents and myself.
Thank you for your compliments.
Absolutely. Any questions, comments from councilors? Hearing none. Mr. Jaime, you may have just balanced Franklin Miguel, who set the record for longest. You may have been the short.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. Take care. The next item is water and sewer. Colleagues, water and sewer can be found on page 166 of your budget book. We're joined this evening by Commissioner Milagros Puello, recently confirmed permanent Water and Sewer Commissioner. Commissioner, welcome. And we ask you to please unmute yourself, identify yourself, and present your budget.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Milagros Puello. I'm the Water and Sewer Commissioner for the City of Lawrence. I would like to present to you fiscal 22 budget for the Water and Sewer Department, comprising of a 2.5 increase equaling to $514,186, most of which is CBA commitments to our laborers. Any questions?
I don't have any immediate questions. Are there questions of my colleagues? And Councilor Dela Cruz, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Council President. Ms. Puello, I remember cleaning cars, doing car wash. That would bring you to the water department.
That would have been a no-no today, Maria. I can tell you that.
Yeah. But I remember when we did that at Holy Rosary Church. Ms. Puello, I've been asking for a lot of the advertisement for the City Hall to be done through the flyers that you send through the water department, because that's the flyer that everybody will read. The good things and the future changes. Otherwise, when they giving ticket about people not recycling, you know, if you have sent the message through the water department, then they already know. The homeowners who are the one that are reading the water bills, they will know that if they don't clean the front of the houses, they will get tickets. Then first, I believe in the education. We can educate for a year or two, but we are not going to educate forever. The only ways that we're going to keep this city clean is when everybody is reading the same page. And for us to read the same page, it is the water department's bill. I know that you've been sending like a big package, like once or twice a year. Then if they collect all the information from all the departments in a city hall, it's going to be one place where everybody have no excuses for not to do what they have to do. Then please communicate that with the different departments about working together as a team, and any announcement to put it through the water bills, because that in a couple of years, we are going to say people are going to pay the consequence for leaving a mattress in front of the house and not calling the department, for leaving a furniture in front of the house and not cleaning. We had an issue on Marston Street where people are throwing mattress, sofa, and all of the things, even TV, because nobody want to be responsible or taking care of the recycling piece. Then the only way that we can do that is by working together as a team, letting people know about the future consequences, and at the same time collecting, we're going to start, people have to pay tickets for not being responsible for the properties.
Yep.
Then thank you very much for doing a good job.
Thank you. So we do have the ability to do inserts and flyers in our quarterly bills. So I will work with Director Miguel to see what type of information can be sent out in the quarterly bills. We'll definitely do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dela Cruz. Any further comments or questions by councilors?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you. I have my hands
Hold on. So does Councilor Rodriguez go first because he spoke? If that's the case,
no,
then
because I haven't speak for an hour.
Okay. Oh, well, I don't know, Councilor Rodriguez. Sometimes not only do you speak for an hour, but you take my turn too. So keep that in mind.
He's been so quiet.
Yes. So, Milagros, I mean, budget hearings is one thing and reality is another thing. When are we going to be talking about raising the water bill? Let's be responsible here.
Anytime you want, councilors. And I say councilors, inviting the rest of them.
So when are we going to be doing that?
It's a discussion. It's a common discussion. We haven't increased our water rates since 2009, even though people feel every time they get their bill that we have increased the rates, but that's not the case. We are, in discussion with Mark and the mayor and looking at the status of our retained earnings accounts. It's a conversation that will need to be had sooner or later. So I'm happy to meet and discuss with any of you and show you the information that I have on hand for any future, just to give you the information that you may need to make future decisions.
Yes, because at the end of the day, what I'm been hearing is like, there was a plan made 10 years ago and not to increase the water bill for some time. And I've been hearing that since I joined the council, and that was almost 6 years now. So I wanna make sure that we have those conversations ahead of time, that we are getting well educated on that area, and we have different scenarios as of how we're gonna approach this elephant in the room that nobody want to talk about.
No, I appreciate you bringing it up, and I'm available to provide you with any information that you may need.
Yes, I want to make sure that, before we get presented to any type of research, any type of documentation, or just say, boom, increase the water bill this way, that we discussed it, we have an open conversation, communication open, and we keep on, we are approaching this topic as important as is. So this is our reality, and budget is one thing, and reality is another one. So I want to make sure that we have this conversation. We start this conversation ahead of time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rodriguez. Councilor Payano, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilor Rodriguez. what he was speaking of was what I was, one of the things I wanted to comment on today. First, Director Puello, Engineer Puello now,
Commissioner.
Commissioner Puello.
Commissioner
Wow, like,
Puello.
there's just so many titles,
Too many.
Milagros, that you've had. It's, it's hard keeping track. But I will say, my sister from Tower Hill, I gotta,
Yeah, like that.
I gotta throw those props. I saw the water tower behind her, and I'm like, very smart. Anyway, so I just want to sort of follow up on Councilor Rodriguez's point. With your predecessor, this was a conversation I would have almost like twice a year. We would have this sort of same conversations around this. I think it's important for us to be educated and understand, even if I'm not saying that we should increase the water bill, because I don't know, right? But if we're going to, I think folks need to know about that, ahead of time. And I think it's with water, it's one of these things where you can kind of look at it and be like, hey, 2 years from now, we might need an increase. And I think that there are things that can be done now to kind of, figure out where we're going to be in the next couple of years. So I think that's one point that I just wanted to sort of like support because I think it's important. No other questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Payano. Other questions from other councilors? Seeing no hands in the participants, seeing no hands up on screen, I want to thank you, Commissioner, for joining us this evening, and we will see you on June 22nd.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night. The next item is inspectional services, and I would ask that Director Amano come forward, unmute himself, and present his budget for inspectional services and I believe public health as well as licensing. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Amano.
Yeah, I have a few here. I have inspectional services, code enforcement, building, weights and measures, public
I have a
health.
page.
Sure. So I was going to get you that, but Mr. Armano's got 5 different sections. I was going to let him take them in the order in which he worked best for him. So, Mr. Armano, if you would, let's just go section by section, and just cite the page, whichever section you start with.
Sure. I would like to start with inspectional services administration, which is on page 91.
Yep.
90 is, I guess, no, 90 is the summary. 91 starts just that division.
Page 91.
91. Yeah.
31.
And if you would like, would you like me to keep going through them and pause at the end or pause in between?
Why don't we, because you may be a little different than others, why don't you just stop with each section and we'll stop and see if colleagues have questions.
Sure. All right, that sounds great. All right, so Mike Amano, Director for Inspectional Services. I'm going to speak on Inspectional Services Administration first. And that saw an increase of $90,000 in this budget. That's the proposal. There were some collective bargaining wage increases, minor for the clerks. There's an increase on overtime of $10,000, a decrease in longevity, and an increase, the major increase here in this department would be the funding of a building commissioner position, which was defunded last year. And I will pause for questions on this division.
I will, for one, issue my support for a building commissioner, desperately needed in this city, a licensed building commissioner to join your team and support your efforts. So with that, I have no questions. I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Councilor Levy.
No, I don't have a question right now. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Saw your pen up. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just make it so no.
No worries. Any questions? Seeing none, please proceed, Mr. Armano.
Thank you, sir. The next division is code enforcement, which consists primarily of 6 inspectors, and the increase here is $30,000, and that is based on collective bargaining agreement increases for those inspectors. And I will pause for questions.
And so that reflects the three, it was before your time, but that reflects the three new ones that we approved about 2 years ago, correct?
I believe
don't
that
know.
was in the building division.
What's building division? Thank
Yeah,
you.
believe it was in the next division, the building inspectors division. I believe we added 3 building inspectors 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay. All right. So that's, go ahead.
Okay, the next division is the building division. And that has increases in the collective bargaining agreement for inspectors, as well as, I believe, 1 clerk. This also adds an additional inspector. So there's 1 more funded inspector position. And again, it's the 6 building inspectors and what was the plumbing inspector as well in this budget. There's also a stipend of $15,000, which is also something that was negotiated by this bargaining unit for on-call. It's a on-call stipend of $15,000 for the year. That's also an increase. And I'll pause for questions.
So I'm going to defer to my colleague, Councilor Payano, regarding the ordinances on code enforcement. I know we've discussed it a few months ago. My singular question would be, who is the lead of this division? It seems like, and this isn't a bad thing, but it seems like everybody's a utility player. What's the hierarchy in the building division?
So in the building division, it would be the building commissioner who would oversee anybody who had local building official credentials. But there definitely is a little bit of a hybrid. The building inspectors do a little bit of everything, as well as the code enforcement officials. And the building commissioner position, it's a state mandated position. So in other words, the city has to name a building commissioner. So currently, David Palumbo is our acting building commissioner. Although he wasn't named, he's been sort of in that role and has taken an informal leadership role. So between the two of us, we oversee the 14 inspectors and 5 clerks in the entire office.
And there was no stipend last year. Is that because of COVID, or is there a change there as well?
The stipend of $15,000 that we speak of was bargained for. That is an on-call stipend that one building official every week would get a stipend for being on call from Monday morning to the following Monday morning.
Well, let me correct Director Armano. There is no more building inspectors. We now have code enforcement. What is it, Michael? Code enforcement HS&E 1 and code enforcement HS&E 2. So that's the major change in the budgets. There were 6 building inspectors and now there's 0, but there's 8 code enforcement HS&E 2s. So just to get the
good point.
And that was all bargained with the union, and the stipend that Michael talks about is an on-call stipend. I think it says travel car stipend here. I think that was just the carryover from last year. We need to change that because it should be called an on-call a stipend for someone with as Michael indicated, it covers has their phone on for the week and they have to take all the calls for that 1 week period.
And I will just add a further clarification. Out of those health, safety, and equity inspectors, there are 2 divisions. Only some of them are certified by the Commonwealth as building officials. So they still hold that certification. They're just encompassed under that umbrella of health, safety, and equity. So the inspectors who are on call are actually certified by the Commonwealth to be building officials.
Does that include plumbing and gas, since we don't have a plumbing inspector anymore?
The plumbing and gas is under that same category, the health, safety, and equity 2, but they are not on call. Plumbing and gas inspectors not on call. This would just be somebody who's certified to be a building official, although they are licensed plumbing inspectors.
So should I assume if an HS&E 2 comes to my house that they're a licensed plumber?
They are either a licensed plumber, they hold some sort of licensure. So either plumbing and gas, or a certified building official.
But only certified plumbing and gas would come to my house to look at plumbing and gas, correct?
Correct. And it would likely be announced to you that they are a plumbing inspector, although we hold that umbrella they still take pride in their licensure as well. And for purposes of communication, that's how it would be communicated to you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Further questions from colleagues? Hearing none.
Yes,
Oh, Councilor Levy.
I would like to, can you apply a little bit more? That's so right now, so we don't have like a food inspector, we don't have housing for inspector, so everybody is a code enforcement inspector.
Yeah, the umbrella.
They are all on the same category with the same job description. They have to have the same license. So see, I have a, like if we have food inspector now, all of them can go and do the same job.
Yes, depending on what job that is. So for example, food inspector, the example that you used, all 14 inspectors could get credentialed to do that. It's not something that requires a special license. It just takes a food management course and some training to do that. So the utility in what we did here was at any given time, if someone needs to visit a restaurant, it could be any one of the 14 officials. Not all officials can do a plumbing inspection. That has to be a licensed plumber to do that. Not all inspectors can issue building permits. Those have to be licensed building officials. Any inspector can do a housing inspection. It's another credential that doesn't take a special license, just training. Obviously, there's many things that, as you all know, many things under our municipal code that our inspectors respond to, including trash and parking, rodent issues, and many other things. There is a special certification for weights and measures. That's another to go in and test scales. Other than that, there's some special training qualifications you need to make zoning determinations, and that would be done by the building commissioner. So there is some specialties within our division, but all in all, we have a little bit more diversity than we have had in the past.
But right now, the title for all of them is the same as code enforcement. So, and you are doing inside your office, the division of where, so some of those 14 people are going to be sent internally.
I'm sorry, if you're doing the what? I missed it.
Internally, so you do the division from like one of them, the expertise is in is an electrician. So not everybody can go and do an inspection regarding electrical problems. Or the same thing that I was talking about regarding the food inspector.
Yeah, it would have to do with training. Unfortunately, the electrician example was the worst because that's actually in the fire department. But if we took that same example and said the plumbing inspector, so if there was an issue that had to do with gas, then we would send a plumbing inspector there. In fact, it's a little bit more of an emergency, and the gas company and fire department would also be there. But if it's something like a faucet is broken, then any inspector would be able to recognize that defect. If there was a hole in the wall, any inspector, or some structural defect that wasn't something that impacted a home falling down or collapsing of a building, then any housing inspector would be able to see that defect and report on it. But it's a little bit complicated, but it's simple in some ways too. Things that the average trained eye can see as defective is something that the inspectors could put a report. And then if it needs to move up a level, then it would either move up to someone with those credentials in the department, or usually it would be something where we would advise them to hire a licensed plumber, a licensed electrician, construction supervisor, an engineer, that type of thing. And we would ask for a report from that person.
Okay, so right now they are all training in code enforcement. And from there, it's been decided to where they go or not.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Levy. Are there further questions or comments on this section? Hearing none, Mr. Romano, feel free to proceed.
Thank you, sir. The next division is weights and measures. There's only one position in this. It is a slight increase from the collective bargaining agreement. And this is again, a health, safety and equity 2. And this person would be certified. No other changes on that. I'll pause for questions.
Questions of Mr. Armano? Seeing none, please proceed.
Okay, the next division is the licensing board. The only change from last year's budget is a collective bargaining agreement wage increase for the clerk. And I will
I
pause.
skipped over public health, Michael.
Oh, I went in reverse order. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Let me go back here and I'll go with public health.
Page 99 for everybody.
Yes.
Sorry about that. So same thing, public health is actually similar in that there was one increase and that is for the clerk. And that's a collective bargaining increase. Everything else is the same, and I'll pause there.
Questions on this one? Council Pan.
Chair, just one quick question. So it looks like for salaries and wages, we put 130,000 and 117,000 was already spent. And I just found that interesting because I feel like for a lot of the other positions that we've looked at, they're a little bit more further out. And I'm just wondering, like, are we, when it comes to that particular line item, are we okay? Like, so basically, by the end of this fiscal year, we wouldn't be going over?
So I'm not completely clear on what you're looking at. You said we spent
Sure. So yeah. So page 99, line item 15110. It says that FY21 actual through May 11th, we've already spent $117,814 out of $130,798. So I mean, there's still around $13,000 left, which, there's only 3 positions. So, so I guess so the question is, from May 11th to June 30th, there's about 45 days. Are we when it comes to that line item, are we gonna be okay? Like basically, like is that, do you see yourself going over within that line item this year?
The account seems to be on target, Counselor. It's roughly, and through May 11th, I don't know exactly which payroll was posted there off the top of my head, but I'm assuming there's probably about 6 weeks remaining in the fiscal year. So 6 years remaining out of 52 pay periods is approximately 80+%, and that's what's been expended, about 85%. So they should be right on target.
The other part that I want to talk about is as far as of the public health. I think we've seen that these last year, 2 years, and even before that, even through the gas crisis, the importance of having a strong public health department. I think that we've been putting there's a lot of things that we've been doing when it comes to reaching out to the community that we put on other departments. But my view, my sentiment, my opinion is that it really should be coming from public health. But not just that, but I think that within public health, we should have someone that is, whose prime responsibility is thinking about public health within the community. Director Armano, like there's a lot, within kind of your plate. I see you as almost like the director of DPW, where there's a lot of other departments that are within there. While I think that, we've been doing a really great job with other department heads as well, sort of connecting and figuring out public health for the city, I think it's important having someone whose prime responsibility is just that. So, that's something that I just, kind of want to say and put out there. Hope that in some future years we see a transformation of the public health department and start looking at it and perhaps changing it to in similar ways that other cities and towns have done across our Commonwealth.
Thank you, Council. I just want to point out if there's ever a time where we're seeing some money for public health, it's right now. So we've actually applied for several grants, more to come on this. We're working with several communities around us for some shared grants, and they're looking promising, and we're heading in the right direction for that. And we're hoping that some of this money that comes in will be sort of seed money to see if we can grow the department. It's definitely a vision of mine, and thank you so much for having the voice to point that out. Public health is, sometimes it's not recognized what public health is, but just in our department, we have food inspections, we're doing vaccinations, we're doing communicable disease case tracing, which was done even before COVID-19. We're doing education for public health. We work with the Mayor's Health Task Force. There's a health and human service side, which, as you all know, Director Velez and I work very closely. There's social services, even things that we need when we go in and do inspection. Housing inspections is under public health. So I think, I'm proud to say I think we're heading in the right direction. I think Lawrence is leading the charge in a lot of ways. There's communities that are looking at the way that we're doing things and wrapping in our inspectors. We have nurses who are inspectors now. We're really trying to connect the dots and see how we can grow this and how we can make it sustainable with even things. We recently started to do the vaccinations and bill for those services as well. So we're exploring all options. More to come. I hope that in the next 6 months to a year, we'll have a lot of great things to report. And I'm hoping in the next couple months, we'll have even better things to report as far as grant money coming in. But I thank you for your voice on that. And I think hopefully we'll be in the same page and have a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Thank you, Director Amano.
Thank you, Mr. Payano. Further questions? Hearing none, Mr. Amano, feel free to proceed.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to go back to the licensing division. And again, that was one change, one increase. It's a collective bargaining agreement wage increase, and that's for a clerk. And that change was $13.93. And that's the last division. I'll pause there for any questions.
Licensing board on page 102 from my colleagues.
Sorry about that.
No worries. I have no questions, colleagues. Hearing none. Mr. Amano, I think you are done for the evening.
Well, thank you very much. I'm disappointed that I didn't beat Franklin Miguel, but it was
Council President.
a lot of fun.
Councilor Dela Cruz.
Yes, thank you, President. Mr. Armano, I would like to say that you've been doing an amazing job with the small staff that you have. Is there a way that they're going to increase the salary for everybody working so hard at your location, at your department?
Is the salary, I'm proud to say, was increased for my members when we took on the role of health, safety, and equity. They did receive an increase for that. Like everyone in the city, I hope that the city of Lawrence keeps moving forward and we can get strong increases for all of our workforce, including my department.
Okay, I understand that piece, but your department has been working not only as inspector, but you also working with the COVID-19. You did an amazing job. Everybody at your department, every time that I call for any issues that is happening in the city, I get a very prompt reply. Then I believe that you make people happy when you understand the needs of their budget. And if we don't increase the salary, it's, a lot of people are going to say, it's not worth it. Let me leave. Let me go to another city, another location to work. Then increasing the payment, the fair share, I believe in that. Then I believe that you all guys spend of your own money, because I know that you have spending your own money to solve a little problem from our city. Then the way that we can pay you back is by paying you all the right salary, the salary that everybody deserves. I also would like to say that you still need more people in your department. Then It is a need, because how are we going to do the inspection of the garbage, of the recycling, if we don't have more inspectors? How are we going to demand the homeowners keep their property clean if you only are 11 people in your department? Then it is impossible to be able to cover the whole city of Lawrence. Then if we are demanding a better city, a cleaner city, then we are asking you guys for more, then I think you need more stuff. Just for I got a ticket 25 years ago in New York. In my garbage, they found that I wasn't recycling my whole building. And we were 20 tenants, and they opened the garbage and they found 20 tenants with no recycling. Then you know what? They gave us a ticket, $350. Then when my dream is that one day that is going to happen in this city, that people are starting getting tickets because they're not recycling the water bottles, the plastic bottles that they use in the house. Councilor Payano was saying, we are not recycling properly because we are spending $6 million in recycling. That is not fair, because there has been a lot of education on recycling. My 3-year-olds, my grandkids, they know that marching to recycling means that you're going to put a plastic bottle in the plastic container. Then it's no excuses anymore. We need to pass the recycling ordinance, but we also need to have the people, the inspection of people, to do the job. Because if we pass the ordinance and we are not going to give out the tickets to especially those homeowners that they don't live in the city and they don't care about the buildings, then if we're not going to reinforce the law, then it makes no sense. In other words, you need like 5 more people, at least 5 people just for the garbage, Then I'm pushing very hard that the mayor understand that if we want a better city, if we want a cleaner city, we all have to work together as a team. But especially those homeowners that they don't live in the city, they don't care about this city. They just come in and they just get the money. Then they don't want it to listen. They don't want it to get together. They don't want it to do the job. Then they will have to pay the consequences. Then your department needs about 5 people just for recycling. Then thank you very much for dedicating so much time. I seen you getting wet, all your stuff getting wet all the time, dealing with people that they want to do the hookah at where they're not supposed to. And we need to understand, we need to learn. And you guys are doing the job, then I ask that your salaries be increased for all your department, because they share fair share for all of you. Then thank you and have a wonderful night.
Thank you so much, Council. That I know it's not always easy to increase salaries, and I know it's tough to dig deep, but my commitment to you, and I know my staff feels the same way, is we are going to continue to dig deep, and we're going to prove that we can be more efficient, and we're going to try to grow the staff. I agree with you completely. I think we have a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of great things we can do to improve the quality of life of our residents, and even not just the things that we see, but it's even response times. When somebody has an issue in their property and they're living with that every day, 1 day of a response time to shave off how quickly we act means a lot and goes a lot way to the community. So I agree with you completely. I know it's not easy. It's balancing. I just sat here hearing all the other departments who are looking for resources. So I get that, but I have hope. I have a lot of hope. I have a great staff, and we're going to build towards it. And we will build this department, and I'm happy to hear that you're in support. Hopefully you'll be with us along the way.
Then we're going to let you know that this year we're going to pass the recycling ordinance, and who is going to reinforce the law. Then, to do that, we need the employees. Okay? Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome, Councilor Dela Cruz. I heard a motion from Councilor Rodriguez to go past 10 o'clock. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Councilor Payano. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Clerk Garcia, if you would please take the roll call.
Counselor Levy. Counselor Levy,
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Counselor Payano,
Yes.
and Chairman Abdul.
Abdu votes yes. And we go past 10 o'clock. And with that is a good time because the next item on the agenda is intergovernmental affairs located on
Mr.
page
Chair?
129. Yes.
So I had, before we motioned to pass 10, I just had my hands raised just to
Oh, my
say one final
apologies.
thing. Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I just want to agree with Council De La Cruz, and I want to thank her for supporting the recycling ordinance. I'm looking forward to working with her on that. But, you know, there's something that she mentioned that I think that just needs further support. And that sometimes I think that it's great when we're able, when we see an infraction, we have a conversation and we educate people. But sometimes there are people that don't care, you know, and a lot of the times it happens when it's not the people that are living there, but, you know, the homeowner is living in God knows where. So that interest is not so much on the property. So I think it's important, you know, like sometimes I drive around on trash day and I see, you know, the trash bag is overflowing. I mean, the trash bin is overflowing and there's 5, 6 other you know, big black bags right next to it, you know, and it looks horrible, and it tells me that there's something else going on within that facility that needs to be addressed. And I don't think that homeowners really do anything. I mean, not homeowners, I'm sorry. Homeowners that don't live in their property, right? Sometimes they won't make the changes that are required because it might cost a little bit of money unless they get fined. So I want to commend sort of this further support what Councilor De La Cruz just said. Commend your office for their work, and you know, say that, like, you know, the times that I've spoken with an inspector, you know, regarding a fine that they were going to do because a constituent called, my first question is, okay, what's the fine? And they explain it, and I'm like, all right. You know, when I speak with the constituent, I'm like, there's 10, 15 garbage bags in your backyard. Like, you know, they folks need to follow rules because, you know, it's not just, this is a public health issue. So I think that in years past, there's been this fear that, you know, you wouldn't want constituents sort of complaining about getting fined. But I think that if someone's educated and they keep doing that same infraction, then a fine needs to be put in place to make sure that there's a change in habit. So just want to say that in support of what Councilor De La Cruz just said.
Thank you, Councilor Payano. My apologies for missing you before the 10 o'clock motion, and appreciate you supporting Councilor De La Cruz and your position. So with that, are there any further comments or questions? I think Mr. Armato may have left, but seeing none.
I am still here if you need me. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is intergovernmental. I do believe Mr. Iannello covered it last week, but I will turn the floor over to him should he have items for intergovernmental, which is on page 149.
Now, that was moved to Thursday. I think you have an old schedule, Counselor. It's not on the schedule for tonight.
We don't have a meeting on Thursday.
I'm sorry, it was Thursday, May 27th.
Yes.
We did that already. Yeah, tonight, I think you have an old schedule because it's not listed under tonight's meeting. It was updated. The schedule was updated.
No, I appreciate it. I'm the one who updated it. That's why I opened it. I think you had covered this with all your other items last week. Thank you. I appreciate it, Mr. Iannello. And so with that, the one item we are certain is tonight, and it's going to be the finale, is our council president will present the city council budget. With that, I would turn it over to the council president and ask that he unmute himself, identify himself, and present his budget.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Mark LaPlante, City Council President. Glad to be here this evening. I wish there was a lot of things I could report about this very balanced budget, very level funded budget. Not any changes except for the fact that we do have a small increase or some increases with respect to our confidential secretary that was previously scheduled increases, as well as I believe longevity. Other than that, everything else is maintenance and the same.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the most part, a flat budget. Confidential secretary. 145 to, excuse me, 45 to 55. Is that, I've asked this earlier tonight of others, is that a contractually obligated increase?
I don't believe that our confidential secretary is part of a union, but I do believe that there was increases that are stepped increases that are going in for her, and it's also longevity. Those are the two, I think. And Mr. Einel, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah,
Yes,
what happened was all of the confidential secretaries were moved to the salary of 55,000. There's 3, 4, or 5 of them within the city. They were all moved to the same pay.
Thank you, Mr. Einel. Thank you, Mr. LaPlante. We had a discussion, Mr. President, with the mayor a few nights ago. I think it was the 27th. And one of my colleagues had asked a question about subscriptions. And I know, excuse me, MMA. And that looked like it was floating between our budget and his budget. Do we pay for MMA as part of our professional services?
We do have money set aside for that. We have not. Let me take a look at our Munis account on that. I don't. Mr. Einel, if you're quicker in the draw than I am on finding that, I'm pulling that up right now to see if what we paid for under that account for this year. Give me a second.
Looks like a nice evening there in the comments.
I couldn't help but notice that Mr. Payano was here with me earlier, and then moved back to the reservoir.
I was.
Changing it up.
So, so I do see on our thing that we do have money set aside for the Mass Municipal Association. So we do put aside some money from our dues and memberships account for that. Does that help answer the question?
It does. It does. Thank you, Mr. LaPlante. I'm going to stop there, and I will say the first hand I saw when I looked up was Councilor Payano, and therefore I am going to turn the floor over to Mr. Payano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. President, can you just talk to us a little bit about the line item 5304 auditing?
Yeah. Every year we are required to go ahead and do an audit, and that's the money that's the bill that we get for that. Apparently it fluctuates a little bit every year. I can't speak to the dynamics of that small fluctuation. Maybe Mr. Einel does, but it comes out of our budget every year.
Yeah, there's that the budget is actually, or the audit fee is actually shared by the school department, the city, a little bit to community development, and some other grants. So we try and allocate it to the grants that they work on, along with the citywide audit.
Great, and that's for those listening, it's the auditing of our financials. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's audit of the city's financial records, and of all city and school, and all grants are included in that audit fee.
Mr. President, can you talk to us about what type of professional services do we usually? I see that we spent in 2020 almost $18,000. Right now, we've only spent $8,000, but I'm wondering what type of services do we usually?
Yeah, the very people that are putting this thing together, mostly Mr. Mejia and others in that core group are the folks that are getting paid from that account, from that salary account.
I'm sorry, I missed it. So there are people putting what together?
Sure. So for
Gotcha, yeah.
Mr. Mejia, who puts together the Channel 22,
Got it.
all this stuff, this is the
Our
account that-
our
that's-
audio visual
Correct.
folks. Got it. And they do amazing work, and they're behind the scenes. Folks never see them, but if they weren't around, we wouldn't be live. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. President. No further questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Payano. The other hand I see up is Councilor Dela Cruz.
Thank you, Council President. About 2 months ago, maybe a little bit more, I put in a request for a city council salary increase. As you all know, we all spend more than what we get on our constituent in the community, traveling from one place to the other, or this year, bringing food to people in their homes, or helping people with any kind of situation. The median salary for a city councilor in Andover is at 36% lower than the US completely. Then for the city of Lawrence, the median salary that we get is 3% the lowest in the United States. Then I've been asking, none of the young people will want to get this job because the salary is not reflected in the amount of work that a city councilor does. Then I'm asking for an increase because we need our future generations to take over with a decent salary that they can do a good job. I know that I do a good job, but I have to depend a lot on the neighborhood association to help me out with most of the things that we do, but because I cannot do it by myself. But just by traveling from one place to the other and being at so many places, the salary that we get is really detrimental. I understand that at one point, my father was a city councilor in Dominican Republic, but he was not getting a stipend. And I understand that piece. At that time, people were chosen from the community. At this time, we are elected by the people and we work for the people. Then even if I don't get the benefit of this increase, I think I'm always talking about the share fair for the people. It's not a fair way of money that the city councilors are getting paid. 3% the lowest in the United States, the median salary that we get. Then it's time to discuss about that. It's time that the mayor think about the city councilors, because I do want to see a lot of young people coming over to this platform. But at the salary, they cannot even pay college tuition if they get this job. And to do this job, you have to have a full-time job. And to do this like a luxury, it is not a luxury, it is a job. I dedicate a lot of time to be a city councilor. I do read my whole budget from the page 1 to the last page. I do try to listen to my constituents in the community. And I do try to walk around my community to see what needed to be changed. But to be fair, the salary needs to increase. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilor Dela Cruz. I see no further hands in the participants. Are there other questions from other councilors here this evening?
Sure.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Council President, I have a few questions in regard to the spending that we have for this year. Obviously, a lot of the money that is on the city council is going to go back to the general fund because we haven't spent it. And I think that the councilors will appreciate if we can spend the money on things that we need, and perhaps things that we're going to be using for next year. I can see here that we have office supply that we only spent $389. I mean, $0 out of the 500 that we have allocated. I can see here that we have only $371 for operating supplies out of the 10,000 that we allocate. And in a couple of others line items, other purchases and services, we haven't spent that money. And we all know that, things are going to go back to normal at some point. And but we also know that there is so many things that is needed at the city council level. I can tell you a simple thing that I don't know if we probably with the help of Mark Ianello, we can figure something out in terms of perhaps the printer that we have at our office, that it's a black and white printer. We cannot print colors. And that's something that now, the fact that we haven't been in the office, that money haven't been spent, but we'll still have some time, 3 weeks perhaps, to be able to spend it. How can we actually take advantage of that money that we allocated last year and not allowing the councilors to go back again to the office and keep on printing on a black and white printer without the capability of having color. And that's probably a small thing. There is other things that we can discuss.
I could speak to the printer briefly. The copier / printers are all leased through the IT's budget, so it doesn't come out of your budget. And everybody, there's usually a color printer on every floor. So we do ask, we try and share it. I have one in my office, for example. The comptroller doesn't have one, so when she wants to print color, she has to just walk across the hall and get it. Same thing with the personnel director. He just walks out of his office, comes into mine, and picks up his color copier. So I think there's one in the treasurer's office, I think. So if there is some printing to be done, you just have to pick it up. Having said that, however, since you do have plenty of money in your budget, we can ask Louis if he can, lease when your lease is up, make sure he leases a color one. And since you have money in your budget, he can charge your budget for the increase, if that's amenable to the councilors. But that's an easy fix.
I think that, it's up to the city council president, obviously. But I think that we should think that way. There is some money in the budget. We still have 3 weeks to go. Why not? Unless that we want the money to go back to the general fund and then keep on bagging Ianello for a couple of $1,000s for a printer or a couple of $100s.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the lease cost is, but we get pretty good lease prices. Color printing is a little more expensive. It's per page. That's usually how the leases are done. But so if a black and white copy probably costs a fraction of a cent, and the color might be 5 cents each. So Louis kind of watches the color printing across all the city, and that's what we do. We have more than one printer is set up on your computer. So all you have to do is just when you hit print, select which printer you want to print to, and it's easy enough to do.
Yeah, and the thing is like most of the time it's not even the printing, because perhaps I'm not taking agenda, any agenda. I think that in the last 4 years, I have taken one paper agenda, and I always do digital. But the digital paper, the digital version of it, because of the fact that we cannot print color, we also cannot scan color either. So that's the problem there. So
well, generally they all scan in color. They just don't print in color. But anyway, we can fix that.
That's the problem. So there is an issue there. There is an issue, and at the end of the day, the printing is always the equipment to be at fault. So I think that that's one of the little things that we can look into the budget. And there is a couple of other accounts that are basically through May 11 haven't been touched. And I think that I'm looking forward for the city council to take advantage of that money, unless we want that money to go back to the general fund.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Further comment?
Any thought, Council President? You've been very quiet. Any thought on that?
I mean, I welcome all the suggestions, and I'm pleased to hear those things. My intent is to try to be as efficient as possible with those monies that we have, and those suggestions that you have, I think, are very credible and very worthy. And as we try to triage these things for the last 3 or 4 weeks before the end of this fiscal year, that those things will certainly be, I think, beyond the agenda, because I think what we want to do is 2 things. We want to make our city council, our office, and make whatever we have there better for us so we can serve our constituents better. And the other thing that I'm keeping a really big eye on is our council chambers and the experience when we're back in there next week. What's that experience going to be like? What can we do there, not only to improve our experience in the council chambers, but those of the public who come to see us? So there's a few things that are in the offing. And I'm just trying to figure out as we're getting closer here to how much money we actually have and what we can do, and maybe we can do things spaced out over a couple of years. But your comments are welcomed. Your suggestions are excellent, and I thank you for that.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Payano.
Yeah. So thank you, Councilor Rodriguez, for mentioning that, because I think that this it might sound silly, right? We're talking about a color copy machine, copy machine, but we are constantly dealing with making copies, printing, doing all this sort of stuff to be prepared for our meetings, which we're having on a weekly basis. Like, it's very rare that we go by a week where there isn't any type of formal city council meeting. So I think this is a very important topic. And part of it is like when you're looking at maps and you're looking at building plans and all sorts of things, and it's a lot of it, sometimes it's a copy of a copy. They're hard to see. So I think it's important that we see that. The other piece that I don't think can necessarily be addressed over in the budget, but I think, I've mentioned this in the past. So I think that since we're dealing with finances, it's important to mention it again. I would like to see in the CIP something around like what we're going to do with how we're going to renovate the city council chambers. One of the things that Councilor De La Cruz has mentioned plenty of times, and also Councilor Levy, is the air quality at the chamber. It's horrible. It is extremely horrible, especially during times like this where air quality is important. We need to, make sure that we are putting some effort in making plans. I don't necessarily think that things are going to happen next year, but I would like to see us started and having those conversations with the mayor. And I think that having a mayor that served in the council and as president, that at least, at least while he's there this year, that there might be a good opportunity to, put something on that CIP. So I just want to take this time and sort of say that again, and hope, Council President, that this is something that you take on during your this last year.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, through you, I do have some good news regarding that, which is after that conversation we had about a month or so, maybe 6 weeks or so, that was loud and clear. And I did bring that up to the DPW director. They have changed all the air filter situations in the council chambers. And I've been promised that the air quality in the chambers when you arrive there next Tuesday will be much improved than it was prior to COVID. So your suggestions, I heard them, acted on it. And I think my hope is that you'll notice the improvements next Tuesday.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Council President, for that. What I would say is that's great. I think that's definitely one piece. I think the other piece is just that structurally, like that building sometimes feels like, like it's just run down. Our chambers should, it's the people's chamber, right? We keep saying our chamber, city council chambers, but it's the only chamber, the only space where people can essentially say that the entire space belongs to them. Every time we meet there, people are able to, to be there. And I think that it's important that when somebody walks into the room, they see they value sort of like the work that we do. They value the space, the building, and I think that space needs to sort of demonstrate that. I don't know if I'm articulating okay, but you know, that area is hundreds of years old. Sometimes seeing stains on the walls, it's off-putting. It definitely doesn't interfere with the work that we're doing. We can still accomplish the work, but anyone coming in, anyone that's new to the city, anyone that's presenting on a motion, they look around and they see that. It's not something necessarily that fills you with pride. So I think that just as we mentioned it before, and it sounds like you went to work on the air filters. I hope that you also put some work in on some of the more structural, harder changes that need to occur.
Now, listen, I appreciate this, and this is the kind of conversation that I enjoy having, and I think it's helpful because it's constructive. And I've heard Mr. Rodriguez with the color copiers, for example. I think that's let's see what we can do to make that happen. I'll be working with Mr. Ryanello, and let's see what we can do on that. And I'll be pushing that forward, and we'll see what we can do with respect to it's a bigger push, of course, having some big structural changes perhaps in the chambers, but it's definitely worthy of a conversation. I'm hearing you loud and clear, and we have the CIP coming up in a little bit. I don't know where that's going to fit on there, but let's see. Let's see if we can get some traction on that. So I appreciate that. And again, my door is always open, so to speak. If you have any other recommendations, any suggestions, we certainly can do it in a public setting like this, or we can always of course, you can contact me, cell, call, phone, whatever, and let me know what your thoughts are. And if I can push and if I can make an impact that we can all agree on, let's do it. So I appreciate your comments tonight. Thank you.
I have a comment too.
Councilor Levy.
So, yes, thank you, Mr. President. I thank you all of my colleagues, regarding all of the comments that they've been doing. I see so that what we're doing is for the well-being of everybody. That's not just only for us as a council, but also for everybody who visits the chamber, in the place that we used to do all our business in there. So because it's being used for people that is going to get married, it's being used for votings, it's being used so for many others group that they doing the business. But one thing that I would like to see is like if that place, it should be a little bit more sanitized. So that's when a group is leaving and we are going back, or we have to do another meeting. So somebody like in between, at least twice a day, they should be clean and sanitized.
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. So you're looking for more cleaning, more sanitation, and I know that happens especially after the city council meeting. I know that happens at those evenings. I don't know the full schedule of those things, but let me check into that for you, Councilor, and thank you. And somebody was asking me from the DPW the other day when we're getting back in there and what do they need to do to schedule people to come in there. So now, knowing a little finer and more detail what you're looking for, let me see what we can do.
Thank you. Yes, this is a lot of meetings that sometimes is in one day at the chamber. So we have not just only us as a city council meeting in there, but there are also some other committees that do the business right in there. So if we have a 2 meeting, 3 meeting, or whatever is being used, and at least twice a day, they should sanitize and clean the chamber.
Okay. I'll check into that.
Thank you if we're gonna have some air quality over there, because this is terrible. I'm sorry, but that is the worst thing that we can have it right in there.
Loud and clear, Councilor, and I'm so glad. I mean, this is how we make progress. We whether it's our own chambers or whatever, we speak on it, and if we can make things happen. I know that Mr. Ryanello, we talked earlier today about maybe what kind of structural changes we can do, and there are some opportunities. So let's sharpen that pencil and see what we can do to make those improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor LaPlante. Thank you, Councilor Levy.
Thank you.
Well, Councilor Levy, did you have more questions and comments?
No, I don't. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Are there further questions of the president of the city council budget? Seeing none, let me just check, make sure there's none in the participant boxes. There are no hands up. So there is a chat from Councilor Dela Cruz. Air quality at the chamber, chairs for constituents are very uncomfortable. I would know it was in the chat. So with that, last call for comments, questions for the president. Hearing none, Ms. President, thank you for joining us this evening. And we're at that point where we have exhausted agenda items for this evening. We do have meeting on Wednesday night, correct? I'm sorry, it's late, I'm tired. Wednesday night, the night. Starts at 7 o'clock. It is virtual. We have 6 new items from the agenda last week on the 1st, plus this meeting continues on Wednesday night with the Lawrence Public School System that was carried over from last week. So with that, I'll entertain any comments or questions or motions to adjourn.
Motion
to recess.
To recess.
To recess.
Council Payano is on his game. Motion to recess. And ladies before gentlemen, I'll take Council Levy.
Second.
Council Rodriguez. Thank you, sir. So seconded by Council Levy. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of recess for the evening until 7 p.m. on Wednesday the 9th?
Aye.
What? Thank you, sir. Clerk Garcia, please take the roll.
Counselor Levy,
Yes.
Counselor Payano,
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Chairman Abdul.
Yes, and that's unanimous. We stand adjourned until 7 p.m. on Wednesday. I want to thank Mr. Ianello and all of the department heads that were here this evening. Thank my colleagues. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.